If you do have a cell phone, would you please put it in the silent mode? We appreciate that. And if you do speak, remember you have 3 minutes. With that, we'll do our pledge. We could all stand. Chris, welcome home.
Absolutely. Everyone, please face our flag. Place your right hand over your heart. And ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
She ready? Ready? Can you give me a roll call, please?
Chair Algauer,
Here.
Vice Chair Markarian,
Here.
Commissioner Beck,
Here.
Commissioner Brizzi, Commissioner Hicks,
Here.
Commissioner Rexstad,
Here.
and Commissioner Wolf.
Okay. Any public comments not on the agenda?
None received for items that are not on the agenda.
Okay. With that, let's move to the consent agenda.
I do want to clarify that the consent agenda includes item number 1, which is the Plan Commission minutes of July 20th, as well as the land use compliance review for a freestanding sign for the well church.
Correct. And I see, Chris, we're making a change on the,
On the agenda items, yes, I was reviewing the agenda items and considering some of the items are a little quicker, we can go through them quicker. I would like to recommend an amendment to the agenda to go through items 1, 2, 5, 6, and then 3 and 4.
do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 5. Okay, so then we'll move to actually, we need to approve the minutes from the July 20th. Do we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Tony.
I'll
Do
second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain, I was not present.
Abstain, so we have 4 and 1 abstain.
In looking at the minutes, I don't think we have enough members that was present for that, to vote on it tonight. Because there was only 3 that was
That's
present.
right, because Aaron's not here. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, if he abstains,
yeah.
yeah, well,
So I have
okay.
to Wait,
We'll have to move the minutes to our next meeting.
Yeah, that is right.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this. Huh? Okay, with that, we'll just move into item number 2.
And so that was a consent item unless the Plan Commission would like to pull that.
Okay, and that's case number 22-013. And Christian, you doing that?
So that was on the consent agenda. If you guys wanted to look at that, we certainly can pull it, but otherwise.
Okay.
So if you guys want a presentation, we can provide that. If not, as a non-controversial, simple project, it can just be approved without a presentation.
Do we need a motion for that?
That is correct.
I make a motion that we approved agenda item number 2, case number 22-013, LUCR, with the recommendations A through C.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, 5 and 0. Okay, then we'll move to item number 5. Am I correct?
yep.
Okay. Item number 5 is case number 22-065 on architectural review and land use compliance.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman Algauer and Planning Commissioners. So case number 22-065 was submitted by the applicant Pristine Builders and is for a land use compliance review to construct a 1,190 square foot detached accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, and includes a special use permit with architectural review to construct a 441 square foot garage and 327 square foot patio, which are both attached to the ADU, and therefore creating a structure that is 1,958 square feet total. The property is 0.72 acres and is located within the RS20M land use district, which is a 20,000 square foot minimum lot size. It's surrounded by other single-family residential development, and the applicant intends to construct a single-family residence on the property, which is a by right land use pursuant to the Yucaipa Development Code. Conditions of approval number 35 and number 36 included in your staff report package ensure the single-family residence will be built prior to the ADU and that it is compatible with the proposed ADU style and design as well. So the site plan is before you on the screen and shows that the future primary residence will be approximately 2,927 square feet, which will include an attached 3-car garage. And as mentioned at the beginning, the total detached ADU structure will be 1,958 square feet, so less than the proposed single-family residence and consistent with the special use permit findings. The ADU meets all RS20M setbacks. In regards to the architecture review and the floor plan, the ADU is before you on the screen and shows that there's a habitable living space area of 1,190 square feet, and then includes the attached 441 square foot garage and 327 square foot patio area. Pursuant to AB 68, the Planning Commission's action is not on the ADU habitable portion of the structure. However, the total footprint does exceed the 1,200 square foot accessory structure requirement, which triggers the special use permit review pursuant to the Yucaipa Development Code. So the elevations are before you on the screen and show that the structure is proposed to be a single-story structure with a peak height of 14.5 feet and will feature a Spanish style that is to match the future home as noted by condition of approval number 36, and the tentative elevations of that single-family residence are on the next slide for you to review as well. The ADU will include a dark terracotta concrete roof and stucco siding, which is typical of the Spanish style, and additionally, columns are provided. This is the architecture of the proposed single-family residence, and while the plans have not been approved through the building and safety plan check process yet, the conditions of approval ensure that it is designed to be the primary use and that the ADU is subordinate in nature. In terms of project notices, they were sent to contiguous property owners and no responses were received. And this structure is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Class 3 in being a small accessory structure on the single-family property. Here's a photo of the site, and it's staff's recommendation that you approve the project with the recommendations before you on the screen, A through D. If you have any questions, the applicant's representative is present.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for staff at this time? Seeing none, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate you taking the Packers hat off before starting the meeting. It was the right thing to do.
I remember you said that.
I feel like this is a pretty straightforward project. You know, it's an ADU that's got that attached garage and patio cover. It's owned by the La Bastida family, Pristine Builders. This is kind of like a family complex. So this is one of the sons that's building a house with an ADU on it. So the intention is to kind of keep the family all kind of in one spot. They had recently subdivided that property into 4 different lots, and so they plan on kind of keeping that as their own family complex. And so this is the intent for that. And so I'm open to any questions if you guys have any.
Anyone have any questions for this young man who doesn't know football?
No.
All right, thank you, sir, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Public comments, Ben?
No public comments have been received on this item.
Thank you. With that, we'll close the public hearing and move to the commissioners.
Well, I I guess the only comment I have is, how often have we approved ADUs that are up to 1,958 square foot, including patio?
So the ADU itself has a less than 1,200 square foot habitable space footprint, which is consistent with our ADU ordinance and state law. So the special use permit procedures are only being triggered because this total structure footprint is above that. And ADU law doesn't require that garages are included in the approval of an ADU. So this is an additional amenity that is being provided attached to this ADU, and will provide parking for this.
We've done something like this before, though?
Some of these have been presented before the planning commission.
I think there's been 2 or 3 that's been approved since the ADU law has been in effect.
And it still is less than the proposed single-family residence, which would be the primary unit on the property and consistent with the special use permit findings.
So that's the criteria, the full footprint of the entire structure has to be less than the single-family home.
Yes,
So the 2,900 square foot, single-family home, and then a total of 1,900 square foot.
yeah. So this was submitted to try to expedite some of the reviews that come into place so that they can pull their building permits as fast as possible.
Now, what's the status of building the single-family home? It's not there right now.
It's not there yet, but they've submitted plans to building and safety, and will continue to go through those review procedures and channels. And then this will supplementally go through those channels, and this, pursuant to the conditions of approval, won't get a certificate of occupancy or be habitable or livable until the single-family residence is occupied.
Okay, so just so we're clear, the house has to be completely done first before the work starts on the ADU?
They can have permits issued at the same time, but if the ADU were to be completed before the fact, it wouldn't be issued a certificate of occupancy, so you couldn't use it until that primary use was fully established and occupied and livable, because that is the primary use, and this is only allowed if the primary use is fully established.
Got it.
And the goal is to have them done concurrently, with the single-family residence being the priorities because of those reasons.
All right. That's all I have. I'll make a motion. if no one
Okay,
else has-
with that, we have a motion.
I'll make a motion that, if no one else has anything, I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item number 5, case number 22-065, the land use compliance review, and SUP and ARC with the recommendations A through D.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5.
Number 6.
Okay, now we just move on to item number 6. And that's case number 22-081. Is special use permit for the agricultural review.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Today I bring before you item number 6, case.
JR, I'm gonna have to recuse myself from this one,
Oh, okay.
so.
Wait. Don't drink any beer.
All right.
All right. Today I bring before
Okay,
you
with
guys-
that, we can move on.
Sorry, Jack. Today I bring before you item number 6, case number 22-081, a special use permit for the architectural review of a 1,500 square foot and 14-foot tall detached metal garage located on a rural living property at 10373 Country Lane. The site is located on a 1-acre parcel within our RL1, or 1-acre minimum lot size district within the RL living zone. It is also located within the custom home overlay and is surrounded by similar single-family residential uses. And the purpose of this garage is to provide additional storage for the applicants' cars, tools, and kind of other toys, and will be located approximately 30 feet behind the home. The site is currently improved with a 3,041 square foot residence, and the proposed garage is going to be smaller than that at 1,500 square feet, and it meets all other rural living and custom home overlay standards, being approximately 135 feet from the front property line and approximately 65 feet from the west property line. It will additionally provide landscaping along the western portion along Country Lane, to soften that structure and will provide ingress and egress through an addition to the existing driveway. So the elevations are before you. It features a pitched roof that is 14 feet tall. It'll feature a roll-up door and an access door on the front or south elevation, and windows provided on the west and east elevation. The proposed, it's proposed to be painted white and with pewter gray roof and trim. The applicant provided a video rendering of this. I'm gonna see if I can get it to work, but he did want to emphasize that this is kind of the dream for once everything's said and done. He recently purchased this property, so he didn't want you guys to expect this immediately, but this is kind of the end goal. Oh boy, it's slow. We're getting there. Just a second.
Yeah. Here we go.
Oh, wow.
No music.
There is music, it's just, I can't provide it from here.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So this is the existing site. It's recently undergone some pretty extensive remodels. You can see there. There's another view of it. So public notices were sent to all contiguous property owners, and no responses were received, so it is staff's recommendation that you review the architectural design, adopt the special use permit findings, and direct staff to file a notice of exemption. If there are any questions, the applicant, he did call in, and I can also potentially answer any questions he might have.
Thank you. Good. Would the applicant here would like to make a presentation?
Hello, Commissioner, staff. I do not have an additional presentation other than the one that was provided to Christian. Hope it worked for you guys to be able to see that, though.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none. We have any public comments?
No public comment slips received on this item.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing and move to the commissioners.
I just wanted to put for the record that Commissioner Beck recused himself. I didn't know if we needed to disclose why, but he recused himself for
The neighbor.
conflict of interest or neighboring.
Yeah, he's a neighbor.
He's across the street.
All right,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, good. We have a motion?
Well,
I'll make a motion that we approve case number 22-081 for a special use permit for an architectural review along with staff recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, 4-0. Would you, please?
Oh, he's lucky. That was a quick one. Last time you guys locked me up, I was in there for 45 minutes.
Yeah, well, there's a reason we did that.
I was telling them how lucky you are. I got stuck there for 45 minutes last time.
Yeah, but you're used to lockup, so.
We were actually finished in 5.
Yeah. Okay, with that, we'll move to item number 3 on the agenda. And that is 21-045. That's a minor general plan amendment to change the land use from the RM72 to multifamily 24. Is that correct?
Yes, and I'll be presenting that project, Honorable Chairman. So the applicant, Randy Sitlow, has brought before you case number 21-045, which includes the general plan amendment, land use compliance review, 2 minor variances, a density bonus agreement, and architectural review. And I'll go into further detail in the next slides in regards to each of those components of the project. So the site is located on a 5 gross acre parcel that is between Avenue E and Bella Vista Drive. 3 residential buildings are currently on the property, including 1 single-family residence and 2 accessory structures to that single-family residence, and those are proposed to be demolished with approval of this project. Through the initial study that was prepared for this, none of those structures were determined to have any historical or cultural significance. The existing land use district is RM72C, which is a 7,200 square foot minimum lot size for subdivision purposes. Adjacent to the site is a mobile home park to the west, and there are single-family residences with deep lots to accommodate a drainage channel that is located directly to the south of the site along that southern property line. And then across the street on the eastern side of 3rd Street, and indicated by a blue star on the screen, is actually the site of case number 21-086, which might sound familiar because that was an entitlement approved for 52 senior units a couple months back. And so that is within the area as well. In regards to previous action on this property, the project site was previously entitled as case number 14-085, which is tentative tract map 19900, which was for a proposed 18-lot single-family residential subdivision. The design for that subdivision proposed would avoid the portion of that blue line stream, the drainage area that is located along that southern property line. And the current project proposal and design also intends to avoid impacts to this drainage area to the greatest extent possible. In regards to the general plan component of this project, the applicant requests that the land use district change to RM24, which is the high-density multiple residential land use designation. The property meets the minimum district size required to establish this land use district per Yucaipa Development Code, which is 5 acres, and so this site it meets that requirement. The general plan amendment would permit projects with a base density of 20 to 24 dwelling units per acre. Concurrent with the general plan amendment, the applicant has also submitted a land use compliance review and the density bonus agreement, which we'll review on the next slide. The land use compliance review would allow for 150 senior apartment units, and the project site has been designed to comply with the RM24 land use district standards, featuring 150 units within a U-shaped building. The frontage of the site off of 3rd Street will provide 2 access points that meet engineering and fire standards, providing a 24-foot drive approach and driveway. Some notable features within the project site in regards to infrastructure are that 3rd Street would be improved to the city standard, including curb, gutter, and sidewalk. There are 2 landscape drainage detention basins proposed within the development to help maintain historic drainage flows and comply with engineering requirements. Additionally, conditions of approval require that a water quality management plan is prepared and approved by the engineering department. Decorative entrance features include street-oriented landscaping with accent paving with concrete banding at the front of the site. And in regards to amenities, the project complies with all of the community amenities which are required, and those include a pool and spa, a walking path around the perimeter of the site, a barbecue facility, community multi-purpose room, 2 dog parks, a large open lawn area, and open space and common area landscaping. In regards to parking, The parking on this site is consistent with AB 744, which requires no more than 0.5 parking spaces per unit for rental senior projects, which are within 1/2 mile of transit. This project in particular provides a surplus of 71 spaces from what is required pursuant to AB 744, and 25 of those excess spaces are proposed as compact spots. The density bonus agreement is consistent with the Yucaipa Development Code, which would allow age-restricted projects to have an increase in 25% of that 24 dwelling units per acre base density. So therefore, the effective land use density of this project becomes 30 dwelling units per acre, which would allow the 150 maximum units on the site. Similar to other projects which have been brought before the Planning Commission, a formal density bonus agreement would be required to be approved by City Council with approval of the general plan amendment and then this specific land use compliance review proposal. The project is consistent with the development code, assuming that there's the approval of the general plan amendment. And the findings for approval of the 2 variances will be discussed on the next slide. In regards to setbacks, all setbacks are met. The density is consistent with that of the development code, assuming the general plan amendment approval. Parking is consistent with state law, and lot coverage, dwelling unit size, and amenities are also consistent with that Rm24 land use designation. 2 variances are proposed as a part of the project approval. The first request is to allow a total of 80% of the 150 apartment units to be 1 bedroom in lieu of 35%. And then the second major variance request is to allow 76 square feet private open space in lieu of 150 for ground floor units and 76 square feet in lieu of 100 for second floor units. These variants proposed are to help facilitate the maximum number of households allowed on the site, which is 150 units under that general plan amendment and density bonus procedures consistent with the development code. Some constraints on this particular property are the Blue Line Stream, which has already been mentioned, which is located along the southern property line, and other impacts related to general development standards such as lot coverage, parking, recreational amenities, and public open space. The findings for approval included in the staff report package highlight the lifestyle habits of the proposed demographic for this age-restricted rental project, and that each unit would serve fewer people than a typical apartment intended for families. The floor plans are before you on the screen. There is 1-bedroom floor plans and 2-bedroom floor plans tied to this development. And as mentioned, 120 are proposed to be 650 square feet, 1-bedroom floor plans, and 30 are 2-bedroom floor plans that would offer 980 square feet of living space. Each unit will provide amenities consistent with the Rm24 requirements, and the site plan and the package before you indicates that each unit will have a washer and dryer, garbage disposal, oversized closets, decorative doors, and will be provided with a peephole and deadbolt. The elevations are before you on the screen and reflect a peak height for the 3-story building that is 43.5 feet. The elevations ultimately provide a modern craftsman aesthetic, with the structure primarily being comprised of stucco and cream and gray shades, and then also including standing seam metal awnings, bronze aluminum railings, cement accents along those elevations to kind of create a little bit more of a modern aesthetic. There's also stone veneer accents proposed, and standard craftsman gable roofs will be used for this structure as well. So it's very consistent with the City of Yucaipa design guidelines for craftsman kind of style development. Before you is a rendering which shows perspective from within the development and what those elevations will look like. And then here's an additional rendering which reflects a perspective from the northernmost entrance. And in particular, it highlights the landscaping at the entrance to the site, a plaza area with a fountain kind of at the front of that building, and landscaping around the periphery of the site to provide buffer areas where parking will be located. The conceptual landscaping is before you on the screen, which will ultimately be reviewed by the city's landscape architect as per the conditions of approval. And that will ensure that there is consistency with the Rm24 design guidelines, specifically in regards to tree planting requirements. Steel fencing is proposed along the frontage of the site, and a block wall is proposed on the northern and majority of western property line, which that's the rear. Steel fencing on top of a retaining wall is proposed on the southern property line. In regards to project notices, comments, and public comment, one response was received that noted concerns about the proposed development blocking views, detracting from a rural community feel, and how they felt that the previously approved entitlement for the tract map would better fit with the surrounding area. It should be noted, however, that Yucaipa's general plan and development code do not have policies that protect views from private properties. Additionally, the current land use designation of the property is multiple residential, RM72C. So as it stands today, that would permit a multifamily development with a base density of 8.7 units per acre, or consistent with the density bonus procedures in the code, a senior housing project with a base density of 17.4 senior units per acre. So this general plan amendment before you is actually a net increase of 42% with the GPA approval. The proposed project will provide a wider range of housing opportunities for senior residents within the community and help achieve some of the regional housing needs of the city, which are over 2,000 units citywide. In regards to environmental review, a mitigated negative declaration was prepared, which was in compliance with the CEQA guidelines. The initial study was submitted to the State Clearinghouse for review starting on June 10th, 2022. And the initial study provided a conservative analysis for not only this project-specific 150 senior unit project associated with that land use compliance review discussed, but also considered that approval of the baseline general plan amendment and RM24 land use designation could allow for a standard 120 unit multifamily development that is not age restricted. So the initial study determined all impacts could be mitigated to less than significant, and some notable measures include Bio 3, which notes that prior to grading permit issuance, the project would coordinate with agencies that regulate water and provide documentation that jurisdictional waters are not present on the property. And the traffic analysis additionally provided review of the current project proposal and alternatively a 120-unit multifamily development that was not age restricted. Both of these scenarios screened out of the city's level of service analysis and VMT threshold. In regards to fiscal impact, the project will receive about a $20,000 credit for the single-family residence that is proposed to be demolished and existing on that site, and will ultimately pay about $1.7 million in development impact fees with our current development impact fee schedule. Here's a photo of the site. And this is facing towards that drainage channel area. And this photo is actually the property that's across the street on 3rd Street, which has the approved entitlement for 52 senior housing units. So if the Planning Commission determines that the general plan amendment and the project proposal are acceptable, then they would conduct a public hearing and recommend to City Council to approve the project with the recommendations before you on the screen, A through G.
Okay, anyone have any questions for staff? I do have one question. We have 120 units, 30 of which are 2 bedrooms. 150. 30 of them which are 2 bedrooms, correct?
Yes.
We have 146 parking spots?
Yes, I believe there's 146. Yes, there are 146 parking spots.
Okay,
And there's only 75 spaces that are required pursuant to state law.
okay.
So the site is overparked.
So we're working on a very minimum parking. That's just right to the code, am I correct?
Project as it stands now is consistent with the code and is actually overparked from what is required by 76 parking spaces.
Okay.
Yeah, so as part of state law, as a senior housing project and its proximity to transit, the state law only requires half a space per unit. And so this project does exceed those requirements and then results in close to one space per unit.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have a question for
I
staff?
was just curious. I know we've had this discussion before, and I don't remember the answer to the question. Does the city of Yucaipa have firefighting equipment that'll reach the third floor of a building?
So the answer to that is yes, if the building is designed with that in mind. So right now, as a city, we don't have a fire ladder truck, which makes the way that the fire department would service such a structure is by lining up a ladder adjacent to the building and providing from there. And so as long as they can reach the top height and get to the roof, based on the angle of the ladder, as long as there's platforms to accommodate that, then the answer is yes. It does require, though, as part of the plan check process to validate that they do have that accessibility. So it's more on the architect to design with that in mind. And so some of the other three-story structures that we have in the city, as an example, the senior housing project on Yucaipa Boulevard, you'll see little concrete platforms, which is intended to address that particular issue. Once the city does acquire a ladder fire truck, then that particular design constraint wouldn't apply. But in this case, if they were to submit the plans tomorrow, for example, they would be designing with that in mind.
I have a couple of questions, more of the procedural nature, just for my references here. Have we made an amendment to the general plan before?
There have been amendments done to the general plan before, including a few, or one this year in regards to the electronic messaging centers as an example, but there's been a few other ones with rezoning, and then certainly the housing element update process as well.
And if I recall correctly, was the general plan amended for the warehouse project?
That one did not require a general
Did
plan.
not. So what is this threshold for a project to require an amendment to our general plan?
So there's kind of a few different categories in terms of how a general plan can be amended. So some could be as a modification of policies. We have a major general plan amendment if you're substantially diverting from the policies. In this case, because the city's zoning map is the same as the general plan map, it requires any rezone of a property is a general plan amendment by virtue of that one map system. Hypothetically, if you were in another community, you would have your general plan map saying this is a multifamily zone or multifamily land use kind of area, and then the zoning would be a separate layer where you would have your hierarchy. And so because we're a one map system, any rezone triggers a general plan amendment.
So what would need to be done to this project, hypothetically speaking, for it to not require a general plan amendment?
So it would be the reduction of units to follow the
120?
existing RM72C land use designation rather than the RM24.
So instead of 150 unit, we can, according to the general plan, have 120 units.
It would be 17.4 units per acre as a senior project on this, and so I don't recall what that net number was, but
17.4 times 5, whoever is the math whiz up there, they can do it in
87, okay, so about 87 units instead of 150.
And a difference of the base density being 17.4 or 30 senior dwelling units per acre.
Per acre, got it. And
And in order to kind of apply for the general plan amendment, we went over that the minimum district size does need to be 5 acres, and this project is meeting that criteria.
I understand, oh, I see. So if it's less
So
than
if
5
it was 1
acres-
acre, then that we wouldn't be before you presenting the project.
I see. So someone with a 4.5 acre lot that wants to rezone from 72C to 24 wouldn't need a general amendment, general plan amendment.
If they were to so it's set up as the minimum district size. So in order to prevent what's referred to as spot zoning, where you have like one little parcel that has a completely different zoning district. The RM24 district establishes a minimum boundary of 5 acres. And so if someone had 4.5, they would not be eligible to submit a general plan amendment for this property unless they negotiate with surrounding property owners to then create, a 5-acre bubble, so to speak.
Got it. What does how does the drainage along the south side impact the developing of the property? Is that one of the considerations for why you're asking for a general plan amendment? Is that what I'm understanding? In order to get the number of units that you want on the property?
So the the drainage channel impacts some of the building pad area, and so that's part of the request for the variance. The general plan amendment, though, is a separate kind of element that they are requesting for this particular project. That is my understanding, irrespective of that drainage channel.
So, just to piggyback on that, making it a senior housing project gives it the density bonus. And if we didn't have a senior project aspect of it, then it wouldn't qualify to begin with. Is that correct?
So the general plan amendment can happen regardless. The reason why the initial study provided the 2 alternative scenarios is that as a RM24 project, any future development that would occur, so if they just did the general plan amendment today and then didn't have a project in mind, they could do 120 units of a standard multifamily project without the density bonus provisions. But because they're doing the senior housing, that's how they're getting to the 150 units instead. But because both are by right, if the general plan amendment is approved, we made sure that the analysis provided that understanding that if this was, changed tomorrow, it would, the environmental review still encapsulated what the total whole of a project would be.
Okay, and along the same lines of what you were saying, instead of having, around our city of 28 square miles, 5-acre pockets of high-density senior housing projects, is there a zone where we are to approve these, or can any 5-acre in Yucaipa come tomorrow and say, I want a senior project and high density, let's make a general plan amendment?
So the 5-acre threshold for the RM24 could fall into different areas of the city. As part of the general plan amendment, there is some findings that the Planning Commission and recommendation towards City Council would have to make in terms of the suitability of that amendment. So let's say hypothetically you're in the far north pinch, you don't have a lot of utility infrastructure, doing a general plan amendment to upzone that area to 24 units per acre probably isn't a feasible thing, both in terms of the resources that's there. There are in the city, as part of the housing element, a few different spots where the city has identified opportunities for RM24, including the Freeway Corridor specific plan has some areas. There's one that's been built along County Line Road and 5th, which is the senior housing project that's there. And then there's some other spots where up to 24 units can be allowed in the Uptown District, and then the College Village Overlay District also allows 24 units per acre.
I think just generally speaking, both of these projects that we're talking about tonight are requesting amendments to the general plan. And just from a matter of principle, I really object to amending the general plan for the convenience of an isolated project. I think this is a wonderful project in its isolated situation. But putting this project in that location gives me heartburn, because I just don't think, I think we're amending the general plan so that this project can be put in a place that I think the general plan did not intend for. And I know for a fact that there was a lot of consideration and a lot of time and a lot of thought by men and women who know the community well, who have lived here for years, and who know what the vision for this community is. And and we start amending the general plan, we're just watering it down. And I really reject that, just as a matter of principle.
So-
I'm not saying I'm going to categorically just refuse everything, but you need to know that's, at least from my perspective, that's what you're facing when you come up with a suggestion that we amend the general plan. I think that we need better justification than what I see in this project. Because what I hear in this project is the developer wants to amend the general plan, and you have supported the developer in that request for the expediency of the developer. But, you know, we all live in this community, and long after the developer is gone, and maybe long after some of the folks in the community are gone, we're still gonna be here, but the developer is gone. And it's gonna be nothing but potentially a mess. And it was originally, with no questions asked, it was originally zoned for those 18 single-family residences. I don't know why we're stepping back. I understand things have changed from when the original zoning was done for the 18 units, which was a few years ago, I guess. I understand that. But it doesn't mean that we have to just constantly be shifting. I think we stick with the general plan, and the developer can make his project fit within those parameters.
So I would,
If,
so I would, recommend that these comments be directed towards the applicant and allow them to an opportunity to provide their presentation.
So-
I do want to clarify that this isn't a city-initiated general plan request. This is a development that was submitted, and as part of our process, we don't get to unilaterally make a policy decision one way or another. It has to go through the process, which includes Planning Commission and then City Council. So this isn't necessarily staff saying one way or another, this is the process, we're saying it's great or not. We're facilitating the process as
No,
required by
I
state law.
understand this, you're not the one making the decision, but I think the proposal is coming from the developer and the staff. But go ahead, Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
can I just add one thing? So just to go back to the procedural aspect of it, when was our general plan last made, and when is it going to be revised?
So the general plan itself, the comprehensive general plan was adopted in 2016, in April of that year. We are, as the Planning Commission aware, we are updating our housing element as consistent with state law. That does require every 8 years a jurisdiction do those updates, and it's based on the regional housing needs allocation that gets assessed on that. There are other elements that we will be updating as well, including our safety element and environmental justice consistent with state law. It is worth noting, as part of the general plan is meant to serve as a long-term policy document, but it is not a static document. It is, living, and so it does adjust as needs may arise. And certain things are mandated by state law, including the housing element and the safety element updates. Those have specific statutes that trigger those review. And certainly the rest is based on the community projects that may be submitted, and then certainly based on the decision that the Planning Commission and then ultimately the City Council makes on those policies.
So the last time the city of Yucaipa had a general plan revised and implemented was before the regional housing element needs of California. The state of California was adopted in 2019, right?
Yes, the housing element or the general plan was adopted before
Before.
the current regional housing needs or
So-
housing cycle.
So our next general plan is going to take into consideration the state's housing needs. And I'd hate to agree with Lloyd here, but
I know it's painful.
it is.
I understand it's painful.
And I'm agreeing without the heartburn. He had the heartburn feeling. But my consideration
right,
is.
you're right.
When you're right, you're right is right. I'm just trying to set the precedent that he's talking about, that if we made a general plan amendment today, then we're setting the precedent for every 5 acre that's gonna come here, that, hey, we need to change it because we did for this and that, and I don't care who the developer is. Like he said, we live in this town, and most of us came to Yucaipa because we love the rural Yucaipa setting. Oh, stop it. But that's true. I mean, I always joke and say I'm Armenian, I belong in Glendale, but there's a reason why I don't live in Glendale. I love this city, and the reason why, yeah. But so that's my not fear, but that's my concern of if there is a way we can do without general plan amendments is what I would prefer. But I'll turn it to the chair.
Yep.
Let's hold this thought and let's get the applicant up here. Could you state your name and as for our records, please?
I can. Craig Heaps, a resident of Yucaipa for 28 years. Just wanted to say hello, Chairman Allgauer, commissioners. A couple things I want to touch on real quick to address a lot of what you said and what you hear here too. You know, when the housing element update was done by the city council, it went through extensive conversation. They talked about a lot of different properties to be zoned or rezoned and so forth, and they decided to, rather than force anybody into a rezoning issue, that they would allow the property proponents or owners to come in here and request that type of general plan amendment to change their zoning, not saddle them with now you're commercial, now you're R24, now you're whatever the case is. This isn't just any 5-acre piece of property. It is zoned residential multifamily already. It is in a multifamily zone. There are 3 current projects, senior projects of any consequence in the city of Yucaipa. They're all city projects. They're either the housing authority or the city is in partnership on them. They are not private developments. This is a private development. It's a market rate project. There are no market rate senior projects like this with these kind of amenities there. Part of the benefit of doing the R24, Rm24, as opposed to the lower densities, to be able to allow more amenities, a swimming pool, a jacuzzi, a gardening area, a walkable path around the entire perimeter of the property. You know, this is for the 55 and over individual that wants, and the reason why there's so many 1-bedroom is to allow for the 55 and over individual that wants to live in somewhere where they can afford to pay, don't want to live in a house with a yard and those kind of things, and can afford to pay $2,000, $2,200, $2,400 for rent for a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. It's a completely different animal. To talk about the Rm24 zoning in the city of Yucaipa, what is being put in the general plan or is coming out is basically in the freeway corridor specific plan, which is either part of the pumpkin patch area or the Robinson area across and so forth. I don't know, I've been here 28 years, I haven't seen any of that property get developed. You know, and the other thing is that it makes sense to at least have apartments or projects in the middle of town that have grocery stores or restaurants or things of those natures, which you know, a lot of our business are sadly in need of people and bodies. And you know, this, we could have asked for this one to, in speaking of just going for high density general plan, the best thing for us, and by the way, this isn't a builder involved, this is my project, is that in a situation like this, we could have come in and said, hey, we want to do 120 multifamily, and you know, which is higher rents and so forth. That's not what we came in with here. We think it makes sense here to have a nice quality senior project. And like I say, there are no nice quality senior projects like this in this community. And if you know, I challenge you to find one like this that you don't need voucher housing or HUD or city or county or state assistance or anything of that nature. It doesn't exist. There are other projects that are coming in, but they're more along the lines of small duplexes and things of that nature. This is a community. This isn't just a senior apartment project. Some things that weren't mentioned, there will be a weight room for the seniors, a card room, a meeting room, things of that nature. There is also, as you know, the city is mandated to come up with affordable housing, which is a bad word. It doesn't mean HUD or Section 8 or things of that nature, but as a For the minor variance, we have I think it's a 10% low-income component to this that will be part of the thing. So it's a moderate income. It's not a low income or it might even be low moderate, but it's not, you're not bringing a bad element into town. You're just providing housing. From 2010 to 2018, I don't have the numbers for the last 3 years, but the senior population in Yucaipa grew by 26%. And there's got to be places to put them other than 51 or 52 mobile home parks that really have no place in Yucaipa. So this is quality housing. I'm available to answer any questions. I don't have too much more to say other than the fact that I believe it fits. And I've been doing development in this town since 2004. And, most of the projects that are being built in this town right now are projects that I ran through Planning Commission and through City Council. And this is the first senior project like this. But I think as much as any project, it makes a lot of sense.
I noticed you called it the Riverwalk Senior Housing Project. I couldn't find the river in here.
It's the waterway next to it. And by the way, that is just so you know, the reason why there's a tubular fence on that side is there's a geogrid wall that goes along there, and then the fence, and then there is a walking area to walk along there. The other thing is we've gone through the process of putting together all the improvement plans. This isn't let's see who wants to build a senior housing project in the city of Yucaipa. I did that up on 3rd Street many years ago in 2008 when the economy was bad, and fortunately it got bought by the housing authority, and urban housing communities in the city all worked together to do that project. This one's ready to go. Not only are the plans done, but the grading plans have been Mylar'd and are just waiting if the project gets approved to put a shovel in the ground. So,
How would you describe the senior adult facility over on 3rd Street, just north of the boulevard? It's maybe 5-6 years old. I don't know. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Yeah. It's just north of like 2 blocks at the most, maybe 1 block north of the boulevard on 3rd. That's a pretty nice senior.
So you're talking basically east of 3rd Street on the boulevard, on the south side of the boulevard, the one that has the parking in front of it on the boulevard.
On 3rd Street itself.
So that project, which was mine,
But you're saying that there's nothing else in town that compares to the one you're proposing?
That's voucher housing through the San Rosencourt County Housing Authority.
Oh, that's
not a market rate apartment by any means. You have to be below us.
I didn't remember that.
You have to be below, and that was designed with a lot of nice amenities. It has a pool and a jacuzzi and a butterfly garden, and originally had a putting green design. It's got a library inside the clubhouse and a little kitchenette area. But that's through a voucher program through the Housing Authority, and you have to be below a certain income level to even be able to qualify and then get on the list for that and to go in. But yeah, thank you. It's a very nice facility. But yeah, that's the case there.
I mean, I don't object to the quality and everything about this project. I just think the placement of it is a little questionable, because I think to say we're only going to have 75 cars, which I know that's what the government says that's all we have to allow for. But I mean, I'm kind of thinking I'm ready to move into this facility and I've got 3 cars.
So you're gonna have to downsize on the cars. But honestly, we have found that in senior apartments projects, there are people that move in that rely on other types of, even with money or they've retired or whatever, that rely on other types of transportation. There are projects right over here on, in fact, you probably know the one I'm talking about, Yucaipa Park over here on, 6th down the road on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
That one's parked at a half a car I mean, it doesn't have near the parking that we have in this one. And while it may be tight, there's still, I've never gone by there and seen every parking space full, you know? So I understand where you're coming from. My wife and I each have our own car too, and we're certainly qualified to move into this place, but would hope to find 2 parking spaces as well. But, you know, we have actually doubled the development code standard in the parking. We didn't just say, well, we can get away with 75, let's do 75. That's not the case. And the other thing is, I would challenge you in most cases, if you're talking about the city of Yucaipa, that's been mandated to do 2,800 doors over the next 8 years, or whatever the case is, or provide for that, I mean, where do you put a project like this that, unless you're on the outside freeway corridor, and be able to buy the land and do the project? You know, nobody's gonna come in here and walk in and say, hey, I wanna do I have a 5-acre parcel on the north bench, and I'm gonna do a senior project or a multifamily project or anything like that. Just like you're probably not gonna be able to do a project like this down in the freeway corridor with the amount of money that's probably gonna cost to buy that land up there. You have to do stuff in the infill areas. That's the only way you're gonna get these types of projects to happen. And so that's why we are where we're at with this project. And anyway, I think it's a great project, but any other questions, I'm more than happy to.
Anybody else have questions for the applicant?
So as zoned, it would handle 120 units of just multifamily, right?
That's correct.
So the increase of 120 to 150 with,
To clarify, the 120 is still with the RM24 zoning.
right,
Right.
That's with the
Without the-
amendment. That's with the amendment.
right.
Yeah,
The senior aspect of it makes it,
increases it by 30.
senior increases it from 120 to 150, but as it's zoned right now, without a general plan amendment, 87 units is what it's supposed to have.
Yeah, and let me add, if I might. You know, we gave a lot of thought into design. You know, just like we've got other projects that we put a lot of thought into design. What works best? How does it work? And so forth. And you know, to us, this was something that was closer to transit. It was not that far away from the boulevard that it could work, where people could like drive down to go to Stater Brothers or whatever it is they want to do, go to the restaurants and that type of thing. So I think it brings some money to the community, because it brings people that are going to come live here, that have money, that can afford to pay the rent in a place like this, and are going to have money to spend in the community.
Yeah, I just know from a development standpoint how hard it is to place projects based on land cost
And water and sewer fees.
Yeah, and I know development's always an unwanted thing within the city, especially if you live near it. But this is, on one side, it does have a mobile home park. It's pretty good proximity to everything else. I think the biggest challenge is trying to find places to put these things to meet our housing element requirement. And, but again, we all like our little spot. But my fear with not doing these type of developments and kicking the can down the road is the next go around, they're 4 stories and they're tighter lots because we have to meet a requirement, where I think right now having, good thoughtful development is more advantageous for the long term than kicking the can down the road.
And I think that's the point that I was trying to make, Ben. In the general plan, instead of a planning commission that we're here today, we're not here in 2, 3, 4 years. If the general plan says, hey, as much as we love Yucaipa's rural setting, this side of Yucaipa or this pocket of Yucaipa would accommodate RM24 kind of a zone where you can build multifamily homes or senior housing versus having these pockets all over the place. And I'm assuming these nice people have much better things to do today, but they're here to hear the outcome of these two projects, because that's what Yucaipa is all about, is about, hey, we like the rural setting, and if I live next door to one of these 150 units, it's gonna change the setting of my housing. I know, and we all know, your view is not protected by the general plan, and it shouldn't be, because people are always gonna be building things. But it's gonna change the whole theme of the neighborhood, of having 150 units here, 50 units right across the street, 120. And Mr. Heaps, you know, I love reasonable development. I'm not an anti-development kind of guy, but I'd like to see development in a way that it would not only maintain, but enrich the culture of the city of Yucaipa. So I don't know if this is, like Commissioner Rickstead said, why am I agreeing with you so much today? I think the placement.
Because we're right.
I think the placement is where it's starting to cause me the heartburn that he had. So,
Well, I don't know where the heartburn is, because I don't know where you're gonna find somewhere to put a project like this in the city of Yucaipa, and it's needed. So is this a matter of something the city needs? Or is it's just something the city doesn't, that maybe some of the residents don't want, because everybody's grew up here, and, you know, look, my kids went to high school here, they went to elementary school, they went to middle school when it was right over here on 6th Street. And, you know, this isn't a new community for me. I didn't walk in here at Orange County and say, I want to put an apartment project in the middle of this thing for seniors. You know, to me, this makes sense. You know, I've seen friends that have moved out of town because they decided to sell their homes and had nowhere else to go.
and you know, I tend to agree with you. Unfortunately, I know a few families that decided to go to Redlands, that horrible city down the street, because we don't have anything other than the bungalows here, the nice apartments right next to Vaughn's. And I love it. It's just the location. I think we have a lot of public comments on this matter, so if nothing else, I think we should hear what these nice people came to say.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Okay, with that, we'll move to the public comments.
I don't believe we have any public comments on this particular item. However, the next item does have
Right.
a few.
Oh, okay.
So no public comments, so we'll close the public hearing.
And I do want to note, just for the commission's reference, so both this project and the following one are general plan amendments. And so with that, it does require, pursuant to Government Code 65354, that the vote in favor of the project will have to be the majority of the membership of the Plan Commission. So as a 7-member board, 4 members would have to vote in favor for that to be an approval of the project, not the majority of 3 that's here tonight.
Okay, with that, commissioners, we have more comments. Let's start with Richard. You've been quiet down there.
I agree with Tony on the development part of it. And I agree with Lloyd too. I thought there would be more public comment on it, and I was waiting for that. But yeah, we need developments like this in the city to accommodate with the state's requirements. So
Tony?
I'll just say that, you know, the notices were sent out. There's no public comments from any of the neighbors.
Nope.
Again, you know, if you look at this project right now, the density may be a little higher, but it's a senior project. We could be looking 5 years down the road of this same parcel as the housing requirement increases from the state, that this could end up being 150 units of just standard multifamily housing. And I'm much more agreeable to approving it for a senior project now than what it may turn out being developed in the future with increased housing standards. And I think that's one of the mistakes that's been made over the years in Yucaipa. You know, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, we could have had half-acre lots in a lot of areas, and those projects were denied because everyone wanted 1-acre lots. And then we could have had quarter-acre larger lots, And those projects were denied because everyone wanted half-acre lots. And it just keeps getting smaller and smaller till we're gonna end up with larger multi-story developments like Redlands has in areas that were rural, like the orange groves. And so I think it's important to, thoughtfully look at these things and try to develop projects that maybe aren't the most palatable right now, but in the overall view of what's coming in the future. And unfortunately, like all of Southern California, it's becoming less and less rural in our area. And that's just a matter of time and component of what happens and people moving out this way. And the density is going to get higher. So again, the more we kick this down the can down the road, I just think the more infill that we have sets us up for higher density in the future than we can even perceive right now on some of these projects that we're still looking at, maybe high density that are 1 or 2 stories. I think you're going to see, high-rise buildings at some point there if we don't develop them now. And then everyone will be moving out farther. I don't like the desert that well, so again, I'm just in favor of thoughtful development based on where we are right now and our housing needs, and try to make them work as well as we can for what we have to work with.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Lloyd?
Just a routine question. I'm wondering how the occupants will be screened for age, as far as if grandpa and grandma move in there and they have a 42-year-old son living in the basement, are they going to bring their 42-year-old son with them to this facility?
So as a senior housing project, or any density bonus, there's an annual reporting requirement as part of the covenants on it. And so state law for age-restricted projects do identify who is qualifying residents of that unit. So it is people that either meet the age requirements or, let's say, a licensed care practitioner that, provides, more attentive care. And that's more in the broad brush of senior housing. Certainly this isn't one designed for medical services or anything like that, so it wouldn't be necessarily likely in this particular project, but yeah, so we do have to validate that stuff, and they have a reporting requirement on it.
So that's part of the CC&Rs.
Part of the density bonus agreement that gets recorded with the city.
Can that change in the future? Like if we were to approve a senior project today with the density bonus, and to what Tony's saying, can the state of California change something and then they come back and say, well, now anyone can live there?
I think as part of state law, if you're setting covenants for certain kind of demographics, in terms of either the income or age restriction, the state is trying to make sure that those covenants stay in effect. The density bonus, procedure is, sets a covenant that's in the decades-long kind of realm. So it isn't necessarily that tomorrow it would change, once it's open. It would be something that the developer would have to maintain for a long time.
Well, it wouldn't meet the parking requirements anyway, so. Right.
Oh, if they wanted to make it less than senior? Oh, interesting. I mean, the parking requirement's kind of like the Social Security Act. They made it when they didn't think people are going to drive over 55 and 60. And I had a client who got a DUI at 93 because she had some wine after church, but... My only hesitance, I got to make this point. As much as I love this project, I think it's a much-needed community for the city of Yucaipa. The two things that I'm having an issue with is the general plan amendment, which apparently we're doing 2 of them today. I don't know when was the last time we did one. I don't remember one.
So the electronic billboard was the most recent one. There's been a few other ones for housing. As a kind of procedural note, pursuant to state law, cities are allowed to amend their general plan, one of the required elements of their general plan, no more than 4 times a year. So these 2 projects would be one of those kind of actions if they're on the same kind of meeting, that the effective date, and then Certainly there's other ones, but it's no more than 4 within a year of a required general plan element.
Interesting. And then the standard to make a general plan amendment, I saw in the packet here, these are the finding for variances. Is this what we're looking at? Or is that the ordinance number 411 and 343, amending 343?
So in the agenda, the staff report, it would be page number 15, which is the findings for general plan amendment number 21045. And then as related to that is certainly the ordinance and resolution that would carry forward that general plan amendment. Certainly the planning commission can make a recommendation or action related to these findings that they're either being met or not being met as part of their ultimate decision.
All right, so yeah, I remember that last time we did the findings on that carport, you guys were not happy with us. This is the same standard, so we need to meet all 4, not one of the 4, in order to make a general plan amendment, and you guys have done your due diligence as far as our staff.
So it'd be the 6 findings, which is on page 15. I think because this project has the minor variance for the 1-bedroom count and the open space, those are provided separately as part of the project level. But all those elements rest on you recommending approval of the general plan amendment first. So if the general plan amendment is approved, this project with those variances is consistent with the code, but it all is predicated upon the general plan amendment being approved as the first element.
So one of the things that I just saw in one of the pictures, though, or one of the photos, it looks like the houses that are adjacent to it on the other side of the blue line stream, the elevation difference, it's quite a bit higher. Is that correct? Okay. So, again, back to, okay, there you go. Any idea what the elevation difference is between the average pad height over there? The second story, that's what I was wondering. So, again, back to, out of all the places you could put this, especially a 3-story, you've got the neighboring structures that their second floor is going to be no higher than this 3rd floor because of elevation difference between the 2 properties. And then to the opposing side of that, is that the mobile home park then?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, to the west.
so, again, in a single-story residential area to put a 3-story apartment complex would be a pretty intrusive thing. But again, I think this, it's always hard to place something, but if you look at the elevation differences and then you look at location and the mobile home park next door, and it just looks like it fits as well as you could fit anything there because of those elevation differences too. So I think that's something to consider in it. And there is, a vacant parcel next door. And it just, like I said, they're all tough, but I look at this and go, this isn't a bad fit for that lot in this location and proximity to uses. Again, I know there's some of the stuff in the freeway corridor that's planned for multifamily, but that's so far from services down there too. It's on the other side of the freeway by the pumpkin patch, tucked back in on the back of Robinson's property there. And it's this is, if you're retired and you have 1 car instead of R3.
Or Lloyd's 5.
Yeah.
Sign me up. I'm ready to move in.
There we go.
I like the project. I think it's a fairly decent fit for that area as any kind of a fit you're gonna find. I don't like the general plan amendments all the time, but we do have a limit of 4. So there's a reason they did that. So, I mean, it's just it's a project I think we need. And I like the cleanliness of the project. I think it fits well, but I'm hung up on the amendment, but we're within our guidelines to approve it with that amendment, so.
Since we need 4 votes,
We need them. So,
And we're short this time. I don't know, do we want to run this over to the next meeting?
let's call for, let's get a motion and see where it goes.
And Ben, I didn't mean to come and just be a thorn in your side or in the side of any of the developer, but I find it really, really ironic that the findings regarding the general plan amendment say that this project will, the level of impact on the environment is considered to be less than significant. At the same time, if it goes forward, there has to be a registered biologist to make sure we don't disturb the occupancy of the boll weevil and the willowed bat and the yellow-tailed bat. And I just, somehow, it just, and that's nothing that you can do anything about, I know that, but that's, I'm just venting. It just, somehow, it just isn't consistent with, this is going to have a significant impact on the environment on terms of traffic, that's the main thing, traffic, and everything else. But I like the project isolated. I just really struggle with the amendment and the placement.
I want to point out, may I speak real quick?
Go ahead.
I've already had my say, but nobody said anything, so I didn't get a chance to come back up. Couple of things, the property to the north that is vacant there is approved for a condominium project on the north side of the property. The street is on this side, so it's still quite a wee setback for the one
Within
above the star there.
RM72?
It's the RM72, yeah, so that's 21 units. And so you have the separation. And then, as to your point, you know, we did every possible report under the sun for this one.
Oh, I know.
Vehicle miles
I get it.
traveled, biology, jurisdictional delineation. And so a lot of those things they're talking about in there as far as the endangered, aren't that the endangered species exist, but they have to make sure and check with them that they're not there before construction, just like any area where there's a ravine or a ditch like that or a waterway. You know, the traffic study, the air quality, the greenhouse gas, just a combination of everything. You know, I know your report, it's probably hard to, unless you started last week to go through it, there's 735 pages or whatever there are of reports in there. One letter, no comments tonight. You know, we even, on this project and the next one, sent letters out to, I mean, you know, the city requirement's 300 feet. We sent letters out to a larger basis too for people that wanted to, just in case. And we didn't receive anything back ourselves, so.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, you know, I'm gonna see where this goes. I'm gonna make a motion to approve case number 21-045 with the conditions A through, where we at? A through? Yeah, A through G.
Yeah, A through G, and it'd be the recommendation to city council to,
Yeah, city council still needs to see this project. No matter what happens tonight, city council will get this project. So we have a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call on this one, please?
Vice Chair Markarian?
Aye.
Vice Chair Markarian?
Aye. That was the same aye.
I'm sorry, I didn't have.
He
the
only
mic
gets
on.
one eye.
No worries, no worries.
He's got two eyes.
I do.
Commissioner Beck?
Aye.
Commissioner Rexstad?
No.
and then it was Chair Algar was yes as well.
Yes.
So that's 4 yeses and 1 no.
I didn't get to vote.
Oh,
Tony didn't, you missed Tony Hicks.
I'm a yes.
Yeah, he seconded the motion. So we have 4 yeses and 1 no.
yep, so this will then take the recommendation to city council for their ultimate decision.
Now it goes to city council.
Yep.
Okay? With that, I need 2 minutes. Take care of Mother Nature.
2 minutes, that's quick.
So you want to just have a break?
Yeah, real quick break.
I think I was on the line.
Yeah, I reject this idea that we have to amend the general plan. And we agree on that.
I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
But then this is the lesser of two evils.
Yeah,
Like
could
Tony
be.
said, if we don't do it now, then they're gonna have to
Yeah,
have anybody live 150 units there.
you're right. That's always a that's
Especially in
potentially.
California.
You're a more visionary man than I am, sir. I have no vision. Yeah. Well, I got, yeah. What scares me, I live on 3 right near the intersection of Dave. Just a little bit southeast. Up behind me is how big is that field behind my place there, JR? It must be 15 acres.
Oh, at least.
Maybe 20. I'm scared. I mean, I wet my pants every time I think.
Okay, right, okay. Hey, Ben? Ben? They weren't discussing any of the projects. I'm sorry.
As far as you guys. You guys make the decision. How are you? Yeah, right. I tell you what, buddy, I won't be living in 10 more years. How old did you get? Well, 80? I'd say 74. Yeah. I know. Yeah, I'll be 60. That's what I said. I can't say it. But I tell you what, this gentleman. Now, the next item of discussion.
This should be first.
Tony, fasten your seatbelt.
Well, as a matter,
Hurry up, Tony.
no, as a matter of principle, I think, me being on the line with you, between him and Tony, on this one, this is on county line, between second and third.
But this one, again, minor variance. Minor. What do you call me?
Yeah, really.
But it's another general amendment.
But look at how it's gonna dump traffic onto County Line Road into the interchange that we just
In the warehouse, that's right.
screwed up last meeting.
You think so?
Oh, totally. That intersection on County Line Road and the freeway, you will never go there ever again once they start coming in with trucks.
Well, they can take the trucks from Oak Glen. Once they open that side road,
Well, when is that gonna be?
oh, they can take Calamasa.
10 years?
No, but if they take the Oak Glen exit, what's that street that's right next to the freeway?
Live Oak Canyon?
Yeah,
Yeah, but there's nothing that goes from Live Oak Canyon all the way up to County Line Road.
not on that side, but on this side we were.
On the Yucaipa side?
Yeah. Yeah, right
Yeah,
along
right,
the
that's
freeway.
Calamasa Boulevard.
Yeah. So there's alternatives, at least there.
Now that Fermin
Yeah.
Now that Fermin is back, we can start again, right? Okay, we can reconvene now, and we'll move on to item number 21-085, a general plan amendment to change the land use, of course. So with that, let's start.
So John will be doing the presentation
Oh,
this evening.
okay.
So, thank you, Honorable Chair and members of the Planning Commission, and bring before you case number 21-085, General Plan Amendment, Land Use Compliance Review, and Density Bonus Agreement. It is a general plan amendment to change the land use district from RM10M, multiple residential, to RM24, high-density, multiple residential, and an affordability provision that will be executed through a density bonus agreement and a land use compliance review to permit for a privately gated 200-unit multifamily apartment project on 4 parcels totaling 8.39 acres with that density bonus agreement to covenant 10% of the units as low-income affordable to be located between 3rd Street to the west and 2nd Street to the east at approximately 375 feet north of County Line Road. This is followed with a lot merger that will also be processed to consolidate all 4 parcels into a single lot. Next slide. And this is the project rendering. This is basically looking to the northeast. Next slide. The site location is approximately 8.6 acres. What I said, located between 2nd and 3rd Street, and is designated RM10M, multiple residential, with a 10,000 square foot minimum lot size, and is currently improved with 4 existing single-family residences that will be demolished prior to project grading and development. It would be surrounded, it is surrounded by single and multifamily residential. Next slide. Now, this project had a previous action that was done to the project site. This was on November 7, 2018, in which the Planning Commission approved case number 16-117 CUP TTM 20031. It was a tentative track map for a proposed condominium development and a conditional use permit to develop for 64-unit detached condominiums. And the applicant now is proposing to increase the density with the general plan amendment, and simultaneously is processing the land use compliance review with architectural review and the density bonus agreement. Next slide. And again, the general plan is to encompass 8.6 acres with the change of zone from multiple residential land use designation to high density multiple residential land use designation. And the changes to the multiple family land use designation would increase the permitted density. The GPA also meets the minimum district size, as we spoke with the previous project, for 5 gross acres per Yucaipa Development Code, section 84.0335, subpart B. Next slide. And for land use compliance review, the applicant is proposing the land use compliance review will be contingent upon approval of the general plan amendment. And is a privately gated 200 multifamily apartment complex, and it consists of 8 3-story buildings, a single-story apartment building, and a single-story clubhouse. Now, broken down into units, it will be 51 bedroom units at 650 square feet, 100 two-bedroom units at 890 square feet, and 50 units, 53 bedroom units at 973 square feet. Next slide. Private amenities include 2 tot lot play areas, a fenced-in dog park, picnic areas, open space with common area landscaping, private internal sidewalks, a clubhouse, a pool, and guest parking within the private street network. Each residential unit is also provided with private outdoor space. Landscape drainage detention basin to the western part of the project will maintain historic flows. Next slide. For circulation, ingress and egress driveways will be situated along the 2nd Street and 3rd Street, both for the project site, with an additional exit-only lane at 2nd Street, which is the northeastern corner of the project. And interior street widths will be a minimum of 26 feet of drive aisle for two-way traffic, and to allow for adjacent pull-in parking. The site features also internal walking paths for pedestrian connectivity as well. Next slide. And this table basically shows the project's compliance with the development code criteria in regards to density, parking, open space, dwelling unit size, and amenities, and how that project meets those requirements. Next slide. And this is the project elevations for the 1-story building, 1-story apartment building. Next slide. Okay, now this is the architectural review for the 3-story elevations, and the maximum height of this building will be at 41 feet 6 inches with a 4 to 12 pitch. This is for the clubhouse elevation. Next slide. Our material and colors sample board. Next slide. Now, for the site layout, the lot will provide enhanced setbacks with the single-story buildings, and of course, that what I just mentioned, the water quality management basin, which will be on the western side of the boundary, acting to reduce the visual impact of the 3-story buildings, but also the project is proposing to provide, I believe it is 24-inch and 36-inch box trees that will be planted along the northern and southern boundaries of the project to provide also for reduced visual impact. Next slide. And this is the conceptual landscape plan that shows the variety of species of plants that are proposed along with shrubbery and ground cover. Slide. So with regard to the density bonus agreement, it is a request to covenant 10%, as I mentioned, for which would be 20 units for low-income affordable pursuant to the Yucaipa density bonus standards. The proposed project would qualify for additional units, but however, is not requesting any. There are no incentives requested aside from those provided by the Yucaipa Municipal Code. And the city of Yucaipa is also responsible for providing low and moderate income units as mandated by state law. Now, a formal density bonus agreement would also be required to be approved by the city council. Through environmental review, a mitigated negative declaration was prepared in compliance with CEQA guidelines, and the determination was that all impacts could be mitigated to less than significant impacts. And the notable mitigation measures were that of mitigation for cultural and archaeological and paleontological resources, but archaeological and cultural received from that of the Morongo, from San Manuel tribe, basically. And that was incorporated for pursuant to AB 52. Traffic study notes additional trips were also resulting from density change would have nominal impact to level of service with completion of the roundabouts. In other words, the roundabouts would maintain the level of service for the intersections of 2nd Street and County Line Road and 3rd Street and County Line Road as a level of service C, pursuant that those roundabouts get completed with the project. Noise mitigation measures were in place, are also in place for during the duration of construction to mitigate construction and vibration and noise. Several responses were received with concerns over the project and that the associated increased density with concerns regarding the following, with breakdown as traffic is the most responded to, public services, aesthetics, drainage, safety, overcrowding, and noticing practices. And this is the existing site photos. Next. Next. Moment. Okay. Therefore, the recommendation is if the planning commission finds the project acceptable, that they recommend to the city council to approve the project with the following recommendations as listed, A through G. This completes staff's presentation. The applicant is here to answer questions as well. Thank you.
Okay, anyone have any questions for staff? I have one. You have an exit and an entrance, one on 2nd and one on 3rd. But then there's an exit also on 2nd. Is that a fire exit only, or is that going to be public or a tenant exit?
That would be also for public as well, to exit only.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not gated then?
No, that is gated.
So that'll be gated too?
Oh, yeah, all of them are gated.
Okay, it's not fire only, it's just exit.
Exit only.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for staff? Okay, with that, do you bring the applicant up?
Hello again. Oh, no, me again.
How lucky could we get?
Can we separate you two? By the way, John, very nice presentation.
Thank you.
As much as he dragged me through the weeds on all the environmental stuff to make sure we crossed every T and dotted every I, which I appreciate. We did go through a very comprehensive list of things. I do want to point out from the beginning, because I know that 90 or 100% of the people that come up here are going to talk about traffic. That I do have a traffic engineer who wrote the report and who knows state law and so forth here, that when we get to after they speak and can come up and speak to that. Few important things here, without me getting too much back into the fact that we have no multifamily apartments in the city of Yucaipa. We have one, really, of any consequence, and that's the bungalows, which was mentioned earlier. This is a market rate apartment project. This isn't, again, Section 8 HUD, load affordable, going to bring a bad element, gangbangers are moving to town, the whole place is hell in a handbasket, everybody's going to hang in their clothes out the window, tennis shoes are going to be on the telephone wires and all that kind of stuff. This is a market rate. The bungalows, which is in the middle of town, is charging, just to give you an example, for a 3-bedroom apartment is charging $2,800 to $2,900. For their 2-bedroom apartment, they're at $2,500 to $2,700, and they're at about $2,000 for the 1-bedroom. So again, these are not going to be low rentals. You have to afford to be able to live here. I did recognize that there were 15 letters or so that came in on the project. I made a list of exactly what they were talking about and how they were talking about based on those letters. And I know that 9 of the letters mentioned traffic, 4 of them mentioned police and fire facilities, which a project like this allows you to bring in more police, more fire, better tax base. Water use was one, which I understand. I understand that a lot of people out there can't even water their lawn right now, but those are state mandates, basically. I do know in talking to Dave Armstrong at South Mesa Water that if you talk about the water tables of all the water companies here in Yucaipa Valley, South Mesa, Western Heights, they have the most water and seem to have the less worry about that. So I've had that conversation with him a lot. Some people are concerned without off-site parking. Well, this is going to be a gated community where people are going to be welcomed in to have to come in and park and so forth, even to be able to get into the project. Someone mentioned property devaluation. We found in the past that nice projects that bring a high class of clientele only increases. The more people in the area start fixing their houses up and doing other things when there's new developments. Those of you that are architects probably have seen that happen before in different areas and so forth. So I went ahead, we do a 300-foot radius map when we turn projects into the city. And then when they send the letters out to everyone, they say, here's a 300-foot radius map. People that live in 300 feet get a letter. Here's what's going on, comment. Of course, sometimes those letters get passed around and you end up getting a few more people that are outside that little area that comment, which is always welcome. Because a few of the people commented that they did not get the opportunity to, to answer on this or even know about it. And so maybe that's something and I don't know if that's a state law or something that's development code the city can look at. Maybe that needs to be expanded a little bit. So we went ahead based on the letters and held a community meeting at the community center. We rented a room up there, provided refreshments, put some pictures up of the project, the same ones that you see up here, and held a community meeting. There were about, out of the people the 102 letters that we sent, I think the city's requirement was about 30, 35 letters or whatever it was on the 300 feet. Of the 102 letters that we sent out, we had 10 people show up. I think far less than what you've got in the crowd today. My point being is we made ourselves available to answer questions, to go over things, to assist in any way we could to help to understand the project. Couple things that I think are worth noting on this project, because if you look at it on a site plan, it looks pretty well compressed, but you have these 24-unit structures, and in some cases they're dependent on the parking and so, but in some cases they're 80 feet in separation on the between here and here. Also, we intentionally put a one-story structure here. The reason being is we wanted to make sure that the three-story building didn't sit up on the street, that anybody would feel like it was looking in their backyard, because as you can see, most of the windows and balconies are to the front and so forth, look at each other or look at each other this way. This building here, from here to the backyard across the street, is almost a football field away. It's 87 yards. So it was designed that way to have the setback. We did, in talking to some of the neighbors, even though those neighbors are not completely satisfied and are here to talk today, we did talk about there are a couple trash enclosures here that we are going to move across and find a new location so it's not up against their wall, so they don't feel like they have that, the trash can there, the noise, the people dumping their trash and so forth. It'll be more towards the unit there. We did design the clubhouse around the pool and so forth so that the noise from the pool and stuff like that would be a little more insulated, so there wouldn't be the noise from that. We, as required by state law, have a basin to handle all of our on-site flow. There will be, you are not allowed, and this is more for the education of the crowd than anybody else, you are not allowed to have more leaving the site after development than you do before development, than it leaves the site now. And make no mistake, the water does flow down this way. So there are a couple concessions and issues that we thought about when we talked to the neighbors and when I actually went out there and drove the property and thought about it. One of them is that there is, between the edge of our property the neighbor's house, the mains, and of course the old church property that's right there. Before you get to Terra Glen, it's nothing but dirt. And so when we have students that are walking from school here, and make no mistake, I'm guaranteeing you that most parents are gonna walk their kids to school as close as it is, we are going to put that sidewalk, curb, and gutter in, even though it's not in front of our property. So we are going to provide that access way to the kids to go to school, to make sure they can get to the crosswalk and then get across the street on the crosswalk. We're doing that. Also, I talked to the developer tonight after talking to the city engineer, Mr. Preciado. I made a decision that when the roundabout goes in, there's about 150 feet of sidewalk that comes in on the street, here on the west side of the street. We are going to finish connecting that sidewalk, curb, and gutter so that it runs all the way to the corner, not just part of the way. I don't know if we've got an aerial where we can show it, but so anyway, we will take it the rest of the way. Over on this side, one of the issues are that this project here, Terra Glen, this project here, which is another apartment project, they don't have basins. They were built at a time when you didn't have to retain your water or filter your water. So in that particular case, the water just goes out onto the street. Now, when it comes down the street and gets to basically to our property at this point, and then the rest of the way down, there is no sidewalk, curb, and gutter. There's some asphalt berm there. There originally was a place to take the water in here. The city now with the roundabout that is going in is putting in, they put in already, I think, a catch basin here, and they're coming to about here with the sidewalk, curb, and gutter. I had a conversation with the city engineer. I don't want to put words in his mouth, so if I'm wrong, he can shake his head no, but we did talk about from this area to this area. Eventually, during the next cycle, during the next fiscal year, they are hoping or plan to get a grant to be able to do what they did on 4th Street and put the sidewalk, curb, and gutter along there. We've made a kind of a pact that if we get there first, we'll put it in and get some free credits, and if they get there first, then they'll put that extra section so that, because these people that live right here have a horrible drainage problem. From here to here, the street falls about a foot. And so when you've got Old Street there and places where it just kind of dips, things just sit there. If you were to go there right now and walk down there, even though there hasn't been any rain, you would find that you'd be walking in the mud. So in this case, especially with 7-Eleven being here, and who knows how many kids are going to want to go get Slurpees and whatever, that we are going to work together to make sure that the sidewalk, curb, and gutter is installed completely here to make sure that there is that path of travel, for the neighborhood. So this, and this are all going to be solved from that standpoint. This project has block wall around the perimeter, lots of landscaping. The idea is to, make it a secure environment. There is right here a exit-only gate, but right here is a entrance and exit, and down here is an entrance and exit. Without calling out what the city engineer is probably surely going to talk about, is that I agree that there's a lot of traffic at Calamasa Elementary School in the morning, right? Name me a school in Yucaipa that doesn't have that problem right now. Try driving by the high school in the morning when school's in, or in the afternoon when it's getting out, or going even to the private school, the one that's up on California Street, that the cars are lined up down the street for people to pick up their kids. It's the same type of situation. But one thing I'll tell you about this school that many of you maybe don't know, our school systems are really hurting for kids. I mentioned earlier about it being an older community. We are becoming an older and older community. You go down to Dunlap and the school for the Dunlap Dolphins, where the kids go, has, very, very, very understaffed in kids. This Calamasa Elementary School has a capacity for 876 students. They have about half that in attendance now. And why? Because there is no housing in the area that brings younger kids in. When my kids went to school here and played Little League and Pop Warner, and some of you know, you had your kids here doing the same thing at the same time or sponsoring or were part of it, there were lots of kids. I mean, there were so many Little League teams you could barely even figure out who the American League was and who the National League is. It's not like that anymore. This has become an older community, and we have to make it younger. And, you know, I know some of you say, well, go make it younger somewhere else, but where? I mean, this is a property that is within a few hundred feet of County Line Road, access to the freeway, access to shopping. A lot of these shopping centers along County Line Road are dilapidated. They're in bad shape. They don't have good tenants. Why? Because there's nobody to go shopping at them. There's no large draw for them to get their shoppers. It's important. You know, we have gone for years and years and years, and believe me, I know I've been doing projects here, like I said, since 2004. You know, the one right over here on 6th and 7th, right off the boulevard, Mr. Stamey and I did together with the KB Home. It's a beautiful project, you know. I mean, many of you know that project. But there hasn't been anything from an apartment's perspective to bring those families in. My son, when he graduated from Cal Poly Pomona, worked for me for a little bit, then came to work at the city as a planner. He had to live in Colton because there was nowhere to live. Now, thank goodness, nowhere to live in an apartment type basis. Now, thank goodness, recently, he purchased a house back in Yucaipa. We were able to figure something out on a house for his first house purchase. And I talked to one of the local residents who said, who came the other night and was against the project, that said, hey, I was waiting for my house to close probate for about a year, and I had to live, I think it was Highland. I had to live in Highland because there was nowhere for me to rent here. It doesn't exist. And when you have developers that come to town that are willing to build in this town and do things that would benefit the community, whether everyone is in a complete agreement or not, I mean, you have to take a hard look at that, in my opinion. That it only makes sense that these types of projects are important to this community. Like I say, I'm a Yucaipa guy. So, you know, again, I'm not coming here saying, you know, blowing smoke and saying, gee, I don't want it to be rural anymore. But I also recognize that we've widened the boulevard and we've put in shopping centers and we're trying to bring development to this town. Well, these are the type of projects that are needed to make that work.
Thank you. With that, anybody have any questions for staff before we go to public comment? And keep in mind, the public, we have your letters. All the letters have been read. So if you have, you know, keep in mind to come back up here and read your letter again. We have all the letters here, but we encourage everybody, you have the right to come up here and make your comment. You have your 3 minutes. So we want to go to public comments right now.
Yep, and we got a few, and so Marie will read them off. And, yeah.
Randy Main.
Hello, my name is Randy Main. I live next door to the proposed project. I've lived there for 35 years. I like the rural feel. I'm friendly with the owners and the project manager, Craig. Maybe not after my letter, but I have a specific thing I'd like to address. But first, I live next door. I'm not excited about hundreds of neighbors and hundreds of cars next door to me. Let me read this. The property has been kept in a deplorable condition. A house with no running water, no trash pickup, no electricity. It's camping or a homeless encampment. Trash everywhere, dead cars, rats. On the fun side, the backyard has been used as a junkyard to store non-running earth movers. The camping people got one running and was running it around the back of the property and asked me if I'd like to try it out, which did sound fun. Okay, to be honest, I was told that it'll all be cleaned up. Nothing happened. A guy that was there that worked for the owner, he lives there now. He said to me that he would hook up his trailer and get it done. Again, nothing. He was able to sell one of the junk cars to a real junkyard. He got $400. I says, well, take the other ones. No, that's enough. So I was told that the houses, I was told that the houses are going to be torn down anyway. So I have to wait again before all the trash and garbage get cleaned up. So I think that common courtesy would be to pick up the trash and the garbage. Is this so much to ask? My big question, the place was treated like a junk pit. What assurance do I have that after the apartments are built, that it might slip back into the same lousy looking place? I am hurt by all this, and I am Randy Main.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Judy Main.
Could you please state your name and address for the records?
Yes, I am Judy Main. Address is 13630 2nd Street, Yucaipa, California. Okay.
Thank you.
Yucaipa Planning Commission. Premium Land Development wants to change the existing zoning from RM72C to RM24. This would allow them to build 200 apartments with a height allowance of 45 feet. The surrounding neighborhood consists mostly of single-story residential homes. Their proposed project has 9 separate buildings, of which 7 are 3 stories high, almost 42 feet high. This project would tower over the existing neighborhoods and would look like a metropolitan city, which doesn't fit the neighborhood. No amount of landscaping trees are going to hide buildings of this size. Additional concerns. 1, 200 apartments means 400 to 600 people. 2, parking, 400 to 500 vehicles, with the overflow parking on public streets in front of our houses. 3, traffic. 2nd Street already has an elementary school traffic problem every morning and afternoon. This project would make the traffic congestion even worse. 4, sidewalks. They need to extend the sidewalks to the elementary school at their cost. 5, borders. They need to be decorative concrete walls, natural tone colors or tan, and we request 7 feet tall. 6, apartment buildings color. Use a natural tan stucco. They have listed an agate, which looks white. Changing the existing general plan, which continues to May 2029, really is a big deal. It can only be amended 4 times a year, and this developer is attempting to change zoning for another similar apartment complex in Yucaipa called Riverwalk. I strongly oppose any of these zoning changes to the Yucaipa general plan. Send the developer back to the drawing board to redesign his plans to fit the current zoning apartments. No to
wrap it up,
200
please.
apartments and no to 3-story buildings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fred Pierce.
Chairman,
You state your name and address for our records.
my name is Fred Pierce. The address is 34961 San Rosencourt. I have a lot of concerns about this proposal, and I oppose the project. But before I even get to those, I'd like to know who the applicant is. All of the paperwork that I've seen on this says that it's Premier Land Development. Well, there's a Premier Land Development Corporation that was terminated by the state in 2015, apparently for failure to pay its taxes. But like the phoenix, it rose out of the ashes, and now there's a Premier Land Development LLC, which is currently suspended by the Franchise Tax Board. Why is staff even dealing with an applicant that's suspended by the Franchise Tax Board? And how does it happen that we're this far down the road with a suspended applicant? I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daryl Mack.
My name's Daryl Mack. I live at 34752 County Line Road, Yucaipa.
Thank you.
I've been there since '85. The last project they had was a 2-story project, 64 units. It was fine. I went down. I didn't oppose it at all. But I've had a view out there that's been taken over by Tara Glenn and the other apartments, and then they moved in some apartments next to me. But this is going to kill everything. And the other thing, and you think about it, you're going to put 200 apartments on that small parcel of land. And if you go from County Line to Avenue H, from 3rd to 2nd Street, you might have 200 homes there. I doubt that. All those lots are an acre, half acre, 3/4 of an acre. You probably don't have 200 residents living on that square block. You're going to put this apartment complex in. You just, and then 2nd Street with the school, that's terrible. It's terrible now that roundabouts haven't, they said they did a study, but I've been on County Line. They just put the sidewalks and curbs in, you know what, about 3 years ago. It's a single lane each way. So 2nd Street, 3rd Street, Avenue H, and you're going to bring in this much more volume. It's bad now. We don't even know how the roundabout's going to work. And I'm glad it's a gated community that they brought into our neighborhood and put gates on it to keep us out. That's, you think about it. How invasive are they? But they're going to make sure we don't get in there. And I live on a half acre with a small 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. I don't use, you know, that much water, but this place has got it with 200 families. The water's got to be terrible. The usage of South Mesa, and that's just, you know, it's well water. But anyway, that's about all I got to say is I oppose it. They just went too high with it, too much density. And the other thing, we did move to Yucaipa for rural. In '85, we came up here for the school system. And I don't mind driving to Redlands or Beaumont and get stuck in traffic to do my shopping, as long as I don't have to pull out on my street or, you know, I get on the freeway now and it's crowded as soon as you get on a county line because of the Calamasa developments, but I don't mind living in a small rural county.
Okay, thank you.
Thomas Murphy.
Hello, Commissioners. Thomas Murphy, 34736 County Line Road. Basically, I think Daryl kind of tagged it. First off, we were concerned with traffic. My biggest problem is going to be with the water. We're already receiving notices via the state from South Mesa saying we got to start cutting back on our water. We lived on this property for 18 years before we actually were able to put in a front yard 2 years ago. And now they're saying, you're using too much water. If we see it run on your sidewalk, we're going to start fining you. And then we're going to pretty much put a restrictor on your meter if you don't stay within the criteria. But yet 200 families moving in. I can only imagine how much that water usage is going to be. They have a catch basin. Hopefully they can reuse their water. Still, problem is if you look at everything in a simple, logical way, minimum 400 cars, 200 families using water. It's pretty simple. It's too much of a project. Keep the zoning as it is. Got no problem with projects going and the city moving forward. But there's got to be a limit. And being in the construction trades for well over 30 years, I've seen the crap, excuse my French, that the residential sector builds. And that's another concern, but that would be up to you all to make sure that they're at least bringing it to code, bare minimum requirements as spec'd. But I just can't see 200 units on that small property. It's just way too high. It's just way too much. There's got to be a better place to put all this stuff and keep our area rural, which is, we like rural, but we're also for progress to an extent. This has no common sense, taking stuff up 43 feet. The villas is an eyesore, but at least it's senior living. It's down on the corner of 5th and County Line. And it's in an area that's not really going to bother anybody. It's kind of a good spot. It's heading right towards the boulevard. It's close to the shopping right there for all the seniors, so on and so forth. So why not just have them buy land where they can keep it out of the smaller neighborhoods or keep it at 2 stories? Anyways, thank you all. This is my first time. This was kind of cool. Pleasure to see y'all.
Marla Green.
Good evening. My name is Marla Green, 34926 San Rosencourt Yucaipa. I've sat here and listened to all this tonight. I was informed about this project the day before Mr. Ray's had his meeting at the community center and was not available to go. I also received most of my notices late. The proposed development is out of contents for the neighborhood. 3 stories, towers over all of our homes. It doesn't fit in with the neighborhood. It's a single-family neighborhood, mostly 1-story homes. There's a few 2-story homes, not too many. Most families do have 4 cars. I am a widow with 1 handicapped child. I only have 1 car. But most families I've inquired on the street and with the neighbors, most of them have 4 to 5 cars. They also have other family members living with them. Some of these units are 1-story, some of them are 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. Who's not to say they're not going to have roommates, which are going to bring more cars, more traffic. You have roughly, from me reading the map, I believe there were 350 parking spaces for 200 cars. That's not enough if somebody has company, not even enough if there's 2 cars or 1.5 cars per family. It wasn't designed for the volume of traffic. The roads and the highways surrounding, County Line Road, 2nd, H, 3rd, all of it, none of it, 5th Street, any of that, Myrtlewood, none of those streets were designed for this heavy flow of traffic. They're 1 lane in each direction. The roundabouts slow things down. I know you guys disagree with that, and all of your studies show differently, but I disagree with the studies. The roundabouts cause accidents. Roundabouts cause things to slow down. The elementary school is a big problem for the parents of small children. Right now, they're waiting all the way wrapped around 2nd Street, all the way wrapped around down County Line, and coming from the other direction also wrapped around County Line, in line to get through the stop sign to cross. So trying to get out of 2nd Street in the morning or get in the afternoon, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And there's not enough parking as it is now for the employees at the elementary school. Since they built the recreation center or gymnasium, I believe, for the elementary school, the employees for the elementary school park on San Carlo, on the street next door, and on 2nd Street and walk to the school. So there's not enough parking for the employees as it is now.
Okay, if you could wrap it up, please.
Oh, that'll be it. It just doesn't make any sense. 3 stories is a ginormous project in the middle of a beautiful neighborhood with single-family homes, and it'll be a giant eyesore to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Mckinney.
John Mckinney, I live at 13518 2nd Street. My family's been there, be 75 years next year. 5 generations have lived there. This project is probably the one that's going to get us out of there. I'm horrified that you guys are even thinking about this. Now, one thing, have you done a traffic study? Anybody? Anything? Have you shared that with them? Ask any of these people back here, if they're at school for a half an hour before and 15, 20 minutes after it starts, you've got cars everywhere. I've got 2 driveways. I'm lucky to get out of one of them. People park in front of them, all up and down the street solid. You can't hardly get around cars. Now, you're talking about 400 parking spaces in that place. I'm guessing you're gonna have 100 to 200 cars parking around the block. Do you know how long 400 cars are? No idea? 580 feet, over a mile. So if we get cars parking on 2nd Street, you're gonna have down to like 1 or 2 lanes where you can barely get anybody through. You aren't gonna be able to pass and go around. And that's the only reason it's flowing at all right now. That aside, I have a much bigger concern. Now, I am not thrilled about it, but I live next to a rest home. You guys may be, Yucaipa Hills Post-Acute, you're familiar with it? Used to be Braswell's. Okay, now, if I'm having a heart attack and I need to get out of there, and I can tell you, they get a lot of calls. You could look at your fireman's logs, but late at night, early morning, I haven't seen too many during school hours because it's a good thing they don't, because they're gonna die. I've got 25 years in the medical profession. I know about that. I'm telling you, not only is the thing a monstrosity, is it too big for the neighborhood, too ugly for the neighborhood, it's also impractical. And basically, you're gonna make everybody's life on that street a living hell. I don't know how to really get that through to you, but the bottom line is, if you don't care about us, then look out for the people in the acute care center.
because they're not going to be able to get a fire truck through that mess. If they have an inconvenient timed heart attack or another problem, it may be life-threatening. And again, I love Yucaipa, my whole family does. We've been here, we're low-key. I've only been here one other time, and it was because of the same guy. So, you know what? You're not real popular with me. You know, and that, when he did that one, he's gonna drop a turd in my neighborhood too. So, you know, I'm trying not to cuss or anything, but I'm telling you, I'm livid about this thing, and I'll leave it at that. But you guys, if you're gonna figure it out, do it right. Don't let them build this monstrosity, please.
Thank you.
Walter Pinson Jr. Olin Main.
Hello, my name is Olin Main. I live at 34836 Terra Lane inside of Terra Glen. I feel that the city has put a lot of money into the plan and figuring out what the zoning should be for the area. And for you guys to spend all that money developing that plan and to be changing it seems foolish. I feel that this is going to be way too big for the area and the neighborhood, and I don't agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Holly Pinson.
Hi, my name is Holly Pinson. I live at 34900 San Carlos Street, Yucaipa, California. I oppose this project. Please excuse my experience. This is the first time I've ever done this. I grew up in Rancho Cucamonga. There is a reason I left my hometown. They lost the original vision. I lived in Bloomington for 17 years before coming here. Because of the warehouses, we had to flee and we found Yucaipa. Yucaipa is different. We are a community. We look out for each other. I oppose. We currently have too much traffic on our street from our school. The street is not big enough and we cannot handle the extra traffic and parking concerns that this would cause. We have children on our street and already have problems with speeding down the street, bringing up safety concerns for our children. Not to mention overcrowding and parking. You said this would be housing for some of our retail jobs. They will not be able to afford a $2,300, $2,100 apartment without the assistance of other roommates. I am all for a project to help our young families as we need more to grow for our young people. But this is just too big of a project. Our schools are also lacking in the current capacity of the kids that they serve now. My son has had to deal with multiple cases of bullying. We have the senior rehabilitation and they already do not have parking. 200 families sharing an apartment because there is no way our families starting out can afford these apartments. I oppose this project. Thank you.
Scarlett Parisi.
My name's Scarlett Parisi. I live at 34912 San Carlos Street. I live right next door to Holly. I also oppose the project. It's a lot for the area. We're in smaller homes. Most of them are one-story homes. So bringing in a three-story situation would be poor visually. I mean, the aesthetics will be negative in my opinion. A high market value, as the developer was talking about, $2,000 per unit minimum will mean more people living in the units, which will in turn, of course, bring more vehicles and traffic and all of that, like we've already discussed. The school zone and public safety will be negatively impacted as well. The roundabouts take time for people to adjust to, whether we believe in them or not. It's the truth. They take a long time for people to figure out how to use them, and then also include the crosswalks for the school. That'll probably slow things down as well. County Line Road's already damaged with potholes everywhere. I've got a small car and I feel it every time I drive up and down County Line Road. With the amount of traffic for the development of the property, let alone the influx of traffic for 200 families coming in, and the nearby senior units we spoke about earlier, I just think that'll also negatively impact our situation. So I'm just here to oppose as well.
Thank you.
Ashley Sepulveda.
Hi, my name is Ashley Sepulveda, and I'm at 34924 San Carlos Street. I'm just here to oppose the project. I keep hearing the developers state that our schools can take more students. As I mentioned to him at the previous meeting, I have a student in elementary, middle, and high school. So I see it everywhere. We don't have enough teachers or people to handle the children that we already have. So just because they have that capacity doesn't mean that they need it. They're looking at it from an income perspective, not our children's perspective. I mean, we are gonna affect our children's education and everything else. Like was stated before, there's constant bullying. I have already pulled out my middle school child to put into Inland Leaders, a charter school. Our schools maybe don't have the students that they need because of the lack of teaching that they have or people to, provide the education that our kids need. Plus, we do not have any crosswalks on 2nd Street. So to add more traffic to that, I think would be dangerous. And then also we do have the senior living. Their own employees don't have parking. They keep stating that they're gonna have enough parking for all of these people who are going to live into these apartments. We all live in single-story homes. The majority of us have 3 bedrooms. We have 4 to 5 vehicles. If you have a teenager who's driving, so you not only have parents, then you have your kids, and then you have, if you have a work vehicle on top of your personal vehicles, you're talking a lot of cars. And where are they gonna flow to? Where everyone else does, San Carlos and San Rosen and 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael McKinney.
Hi, I'm Michael McKinney of 13518 2nd Street. So I have a severe stutter, so I have to be pretty pissed off to come up here. At first, when I heard that two-story condos were going into that spot, like I found that utterly ridiculous in the first place, because like that does not match the area at all. And then like yesterday on my last night, we heard because of Randy, like if he hadn't told us, we wouldn't even have had known that this was going on. Because like you're never informed of any of these things whatsoever. But like 3 stories just does not go with the area at all. That's like completely metropolitan. And then like it seems like the city has different plans for that area than the people who live there. Like I'm shocked to see what the zoning is for our area. Like we have a horse ranch not too far from us. Then like Yucaipa also prides itself in its ranches, and it even wants to have vineyards. But you guys are just gonna build up all the open land. And then there's already existing infrastructure in those spaces. I'm sure in the future, those are targets and he's probably going to be behind them. I mean, he's already tried to build a horse ranch back in the 90s. But I've grown up on 2nd Street my entire life. I often see barn owls hunting over the area. I see red-tailed hawks all the time. Like, once that's built, that's probably gonna start to go away as well. Like, honestly, this is utterly shocking that, like, this even got through in the first place. And, like, if it's allowed to go to 3 stories, that's insane. Also, too, like, there's no parks for these families to play in. Like, he talks about these families coming in. Like, we don't have any parks close to us, and the school is closed. So you can't even go there to bring your children to play. So where are all those children gonna play on that small strip of land they have? Like, you can't play catch on that if you're so concerned about families. And then as for sidewalks, like, the city should have put in sidewalks for the school. We shouldn't have to rely on these businessmen for that. And these developers who obviously do not care for the areas that they're going to invade. So, thank you.
Arthur Walter.
Hi, I'm Arthur Walter, 13428 2nd Street, Yucaipa, the dreaded 2nd Street. Yeah, that's the way it's getting to be. Lived there since 1985, have seen everything that school has to offer and what traffic jams end up through there, and they are, I don't care if you're saying 200 people, 500 people, 800 people, it's always a jam. Even the trash trucks know they can't get through there at given times. Even the mailman knows he can't get through there at given times. It's a total traffic jam, and you guys are talking about putting in another 200 or 300 people. Oh boy. I can't believe it, number one. And then there is no other zoning in that area that is this dense. You're gonna put them in like sardines? Guess what? You guys will be responsible for a whole lot of kids getting hurt because of this kind of crap. I'm sorry. But good grief, people. I have seen the traffic jams. I have seen where I can't get out of my driveway. I've seen people up and down my road, 2nd Street. It's not made for what you guys have got in mind. The school hasn't got enough parking. They maybe have it for maybe 30, 40 cars. And that mostly takes care of the teachers, the employees, and a little bit of an area that they drive in and drop a couple kids off and go. Other than that, it goes down the whole road on either side. So, I just, between that and just the overindent, and then you're talking about taking and bringing more and more traffic into the area by taking and having inlets on that 2nd Street. Good grief, it's only a 2-lane road. And that's even lined with some sidewalks. You ain't gonna make it any bigger very well. But that school is not going to be safe. And you guys are gonna be responsible. That's all there is to it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
We have no more other public comment slips for this item.
Okay, with that, we, would the applicant like to handle some of these issues?
Why not? Can you pull up the site plan, please?
No, he didn't turn in a slip in. Did you turn in a slip? If If you fill out a slip, yes. Can I fill out a slip right here? Right up on top.
Yeah, while he fills out the slip, I just want to make a couple of comments, giving him an opportunity. So Mr. Heaps, if you want to have a seat. While he's doing that, folks, for those of you that came and spoke for the first time, you guys did a great job. You did better than we are doing up here. And we appreciate all of your input. And not to, you guys already heard my opinion on the first one, and not to give an opinion just yet. We'll hear what we have left to be said. However, we live in this town. We love this town for the same reasons you guys love this town. And unfortunately, there are laws and regulations that we have to follow, and we encourage you to step up, to run for office, or submit your name to be a volunteer to sit on any of these committees, just so you feel the pressure from both sides. Our job here is to balance your interest with the interest of the city and the pressure of the state. So just keep that in mind as traffic. We hate traffic. We all would love to not have any cars and float in the air if we could. But I just wanted to thank you all for coming here. I know he will too, and giving you some time to fill out that slip. So go ahead, sir.
All right, go ahead, sir.
My name's Jim Wagner, and I live at 34858 County Line Road. So I guess my view doesn't matter, because I heard my view doesn't matter. And I don't want it obstructed by three-story buildings. It's already obstructed by the filthy tractors, the filthy transients that live there and everything, but they're talking about beautifying this area. I don't know how long this developer or whoever the hell owns that property has owned it, but they sure the hell haven't cleaned it up. And we got a grade school there. My son asked me the other day, and he's in law enforcement, how the hell they can't even get cops or firemen or help in there if there was a tragedy like we've had in this country at those schools. What the hell do we need 500 more cars for? I don't know how much pot half these people smoke, but I gave it up in 1969. Thank you.
Ben?
And then we ended up with one more comment from Erica Moreni.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Erica Murphy. I live in 34736
Can you
County
speak right
Line.
here more to the mic? There you go. Thank you.
34736 County Line Road in Yucaipa, California. And I am opposed to this project. I understand this gentleman here is bringing this project and he's putting all his nice work and everything, but like my neighbor Daryl said, it's all gonna be for them, and they're keeping us out. He says that they're gonna bring businesses to the area, but what kind of businesses are we gonna get? I mean, look at the corner that we live in, 3rd and County Line. They put a pot shop or a smoke shop. We don't need those kind of business. We have children that cross the streets, that go through those streets. We don't need that kind of business. The traffic is terrible. Like my husband said, the water, what about the water? We are in a drought. California is like telling us that we cannot use water. These people are gonna be using water. So there's a lot of concerns, safety, like our neighbor said, transient people walk around the street already. We don't need that kind of stuff. It's bad enough that we have the noise in County Line. Like our other neighbor said, the people in the senior center there, that they better not have a heart attack during the school hours because they will die. So there are concerns in the neighborhood. We moved to Yucaipa. I initially came from Temecula. I know these projects only bring chaos. Look at Temecula now. When I was there, it was beautiful, it was all rural, and now it's traffic everywhere. You cannot get out of Winchester Road and Rancho, California. It's gonna happen here. It's already happening. The Yucaipa that we used to know before, the rural, the beautiful, is already leaving. We don't need more people here. We can go to Redlands, we can go to Bowman to do all the shopping. We don't need to bring the chaos in here. We cannot afford to have more people here. I know at the end of the day, it's a money issue for some people, but it doesn't benefit everyone. And we're not talking about just one person, it's a community. And I heard from you guys, you guys like here because you like the rural thing, the family style. We like it too, and we want to keep it this way. And we don't want no more people in our neighborhood that only is gonna bring it down. It's the lower side of the town where maybe it's not the higher taxes that we pay, but we like it that way. You know, bring it to the Chapman Heights area.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, now that's it.
Okay, with that, we'll have a rebuttal. And keep in mind, when any project that comes to us, there has been a traffic study done, and there was a traffic study done on this project as well. And those traffic studies are pretty in-depth. So again, our hands are kind of tied on certain issues. We can only move within the issues or the constraints that we're given. So we kind of try and balance it the best we can. With that, Mr. Heaps?
Thank you. The most hated man in Yucaipa today, but let me just give my comments. A lot of these things were addressed, unfortunately, at the neighborhood meeting. Not everybody was able to make it. I understand it was short notice. I do want to agree with Randy Main that there are code enforcement issues on that property currently that need to be straightened out, needs to be cleaned up. Those houses need to be knocked down. And so I'm going to agree with that. And you know, and I understand traffic congestion is an issue. It's everybody's issue. I do want to bring up most of the people that have children here. And by the way, I mentioned earlier how short the elementary school is. Mesa Verde, the middle school, has a capacity for 1,700 students there, and they have currently 700 students. I mean, there are 1,000 students under capacity. Yucaipa High School, when my son went there, it was overcrowded. Now they have a capacity for 3,000 students. They're at 2,400. I did talk to the school district. They were, unfortunately, Ms. Banks couldn't be here. She was going to come and speak to the project, but she's has a sick sister, I think, so not able to make it. What I wanted to bring up is if you're living here and you know traffic is an issue out there, you're going to be walking your kids to school in the morning. You're going to be going down to pick them up. If you're going to work and you live wherever it is, I work wherever it is, whether it's at Soren Engineering or down Avenue E, or if it's somewhere we got to get on the freeway for, you're going out this exit down here. You're going to be going out on 3rd, hanging a left or hanging a right, and going wherever you need to go. You're not going to be going out here during peak hours when school's going. And again, I have a traffic consultant to speak about that. And yes, there was a full comprehensive traffic study that was done. I want to bring up that this city has a retail leakage of over $400 million. That means there's $400 million worth of shopping that goes to Redlands or Beaumont or Banning. And I know some people here that said, gee, I'm okay with that. I don't mind leaving town, but I'm sure the city would like to recapture some of that and to have retail establishments here in town that brought that kind of money into the city coffers and help to keep the city solvent, to keep the city what is we're used to. The reason why there's probably not a lot of parks, I mean, there is the Avenue I Park down there, but not a lot that are next door or whatever. This is a city of parks. There are a lot of parks. They just don't happen to be in this area. That is a fairly decent-sized park. I'll take exception unless you can long toss like Clayton Kershaw. You certainly can throw a ball in that park. It's certainly long enough to do that. As to the water issue, I've talked to South Mesa Water. They assure me that while we are in a drought, and it's mandated by state, that there is enough water for the project. They have issued a will serve letter saying we have enough water to serve this project, just like Yucaipa Valley Water District says that we have enough sewer capacity to service the sewer. So water and sewer are not an issue. I keep hearing about a small piece of land. It's almost 10 acres of property. It's not a small piece of land by any stretch of the imagination. What else did I want to answer back on? And by the way, I am the president of Premium Land Development, not Premier. Yes, the traffic study was done. This is 3 stories is far from a metropolitan. You want to see metropolitan, go down to Irvine or somewhere where suddenly it's gone from 3 stories to 15 stories or 18-story apartments or things of that nature. What else do I want to talk about? County Line Road is going to be upgraded. I know they're talking about potholes on County Line roads and those problems. It's going to be upgraded with the roundabouts and work that's going on, and different drainage and stuff that's going to be going into that road is going to require them to repave sections of that road. I'm sure it can be talked about more by engineering, maybe by Katrina, I don't know. The shortages of teachers and things of that nature, I can't speak to because I don't go there all the time. I do talk to the school district, which I will tell you receives $10,000 per year per student that goes to those schools. So I mean, if this apartment project of 200 units has whatever the number is, if it has 250 students maybe that end up going to the different schools around here, you do the math. It's quite a bit of money that's going to go into the school district to allow them to upgrade facilities and get new teachers and pay for those kind of salaries and things of that nature. Let's see what else. Oh, and I know that it was mentioned by Michael regarding the horse ranch down the road. That property is zoned multifamily, and I did try to buy it in the 90s, to do a project on, and it just wasn't for sale. So, but that someday is going to be developed at some point, and it is zoned for multifamily. It's not a single-family residential or just a horse ranch the way it is. It is multifamily. Anyway, those are the most things I want to say. I will say, and I think this is very important, besides the retail leakage, we're talking about the rural atmosphere of Yucaipa, a city that is now approving warehouses along the freeway corridor and putting some other warehouses in that they're looking at that have been presented by PlaceWorks. I think it was a 363,000 square foot warehouse recently that whoever works there would sure be better off living in Yucaipa than they would be going somewhere else. Same thing with Sorensen Engineer. Our largest employer in Yucaipa has over 60% of their workforce living in other communities because we don't have housing for them. And some of those people don't make enough to just buy a house on their own unless, in some cases at Sorensen, because I've talked to them about the 17th Street project, you have a husband and wife engineering team that have the salaries together to buy the house. They certainly can afford to live in one of these nice apartments, but they can't afford to go buy a house. And especially, let's not forget that despite all the projects that are taking place right now, the way interest rates are going, who knows how long that's going to move forward, where rentals are going to be what people are looking for. And we have a developer that's looking to build this project and add to the city. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Oh, I do want to bring up the traffic engineer too. So I would like her to speak to the traffic issue because it's above my pay grade and yours and everybody else's. So if you don't mind, if you give her a few minutes.
Before the traffic engineer, Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question. So I'd like you to address, I think it was Mr. Pierce's comment on the condition and the status of your business. I know you're a well-respected man. I've known you for a few years. I know your son has worked for the city, so I don't think you could just slip by with a bad business under the, watchful eyes of our staff. So what is
No,
the status of
been
your
in business since '06, and like I said earlier, it's premium, not premier land development.
All right, and you have your licenses and everything that
Sure,
you need
absolutely.
for business? You've been in good standing?
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, as we talked about doing traffic studies in the city of Yucaipa, we have one of the best engineers in any area in California. And if he could come up for me, and you could, are you gonna, for me, who's gonna do it?
Or she?
Or she's gonna do it.
There you go.
They got a 1-2 partnership here.
My name is Perry Alerso. I work with Gandini Group. I've been an engineer since, oh, yikes, 1987.
Wow.
So there was a traffic study done on the project. It followed the City of Yucaipa's traffic impact guidelines. It followed the national standards for trip generation in producing this. Brand new counts were done. The analysis was done in the prescribed manner. Currently, on 2nd Street and County Line, it shows level of service D. That's existing. With the construction of the roundabout the city is doing with Cal Mesa, that level of service increases. When you add the project traffic, there is no level of service issues with the project. I understand that there are issues on the street and the roadway segment with the school. However, given the amount of traffic that the project introduces and produces at the driveways during the peak hours and onto the county line, there is no perceived level of service difference, and it falls within the city guidelines.
Does it take into consideration the existence of the school? Your traffic
Yes, the
study?
school is an existing feature, and so that's accounted for in the existing counts when you do new counts. So that any traffic that's going to and from the school during peak hours is included in those new counts. It also includes all the development projects that are in the city. And so there's an extensive list of other developments that are also included as an overlay for opening year. So it does follow the prescribed manner. I understand that during school and school operations, because of the way that schools function
And the roundabouts do move traffic quicker, faster than stop signs or lights.
they function by creating a constant flow. That's what improves the level of service. Whereas the stop signs, everyone has to stop, and sometimes you're judging, who's going to go next. And then at a certain point, then you would need a signal. But roundabouts wind up being, on the long term, more cost effective, because then you don't have the cost of the traffic signal, you don't have the cost of the maintenance of the traffic signal, the electricity. And by slowing the traffic down, it creates a benefit in that for safety, and by slowing the traffic down. Now, the one lady is right, it takes people time to get used to roundabouts. They're used to driving fast and stopping quick and then going quick. A roundabout will force traffic to slow down, and then everyone takes their turn, and you have that continuous flow of traffic. That's what increases the level of service.
Okay.
Does the traffic study take into account the impact at County Line Road and the 10 interchange that was just totally bombed 2 weeks ago with the warehouse project? I mean, because that is going to be catastrophic.
The way that traffic studies work is the study area is depicted on the level of trips. And so the study area extended to 5th Street, and it didn't go on down to I-10. So.
Going to 5th Street.
Yeah, it goes from 2nd Street to 5th Street. It doesn't go all the way to I-10. The study area for this project.
Right, but okay, the study doesn't, but the people will. The people are gonna go out.
Yes.
The people are gonna, so the study.
But the procedure
I don't care about the study, because the people are going to go down 3rd Street to the corner, turn right, and take County Line Road. That's the study that I think would be the most effective and the most revealing. I don't know, I don't know if people are gonna go to Fifth Street and then, you know,
No, they continue past Fifth Street to I-10. However, using the standard procedures, the study area was developed based on the number of trips. And so for this particular project, the study area goes down to Fifth Street. It doesn't proceed further.
okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
All right.
Do you have a traffic?
No, we're, I'm sorry. Okay, at this point, we're gonna close the public hearing and we're gonna move to the commissioners. Okay, commissioners, let's start with Lloyd.
Well, my position hasn't changed. We're talking about amending the general plan again. And in this situation, I can live with the senior adult modification because I think you guys are much more visionary than I am, even though I'm needing a senior adult facility and you're not. But the fact of the matter is, I'm just questioning whether our community really needs a facility that rents one-bedroom apartments for $2,000 a month. I don't know. I just, and I can't get over the fact that if I were living in this complex, I would get onto Third Street. I don't know what the traffic study has done and what it's all involved, but I just know I'd get on Third, turn right on County Line, and I would probably immediately be stuck in traffic because I know the semis are gonna back up, the additional traffic from here is gonna back up, and it's gonna be a mess. I just don't see it any other way, but, and I'm not an anti-growth person, believe it or not. But I think reasonable growth is more appropriate, and I just don't think this fits into the category of really reasonable growth. Done.
All right.
Chris?
Just to be clear for the people that are here, the project that Lloyd is talking about, the trucks are gonna be at the warehouse we just approved on the south side of the freeway, so it wouldn't be on this side. Nevertheless,
They'll be on both sides. And I didn't approve it, but that's okay. The commission approved it, but I wasn't part of that approval. I want to be straight on that.
I just want to also, traffic is going to grow. There's nothing we can do to stop it. We don't like it. None of us like the traffic. We all would like empty roads, no traffic lights, no stop signs. I drive a car that drives itself, so I hate the stop signs and traffic lights. I want to sit back and let it just roll down Yucaipa Boulevard if it could, but that's just not the reality of where we live. California is a very sought-after state. It's one of the nicest places, I believe, on earth to live in, and we're very blessed to live here. We just have to have the compromise of traffic. Now, having said that, I would like to see a project like this, not to the extent of 200 units, not here. And I was on the fence with the last one, because it's senior housing, because it's a unique property, that was a different setting. But with this one, I think we can get away with 100 to 120 units, but maybe not 200. And with that being said, the general plan amendment was the thing that was starting to influence my heartburn. And that's my position on that, still on this one. I would have trouble with the 200 units. I'd like it to be there. I don't necessarily want to see 200 because what would stop us from 300 units? What would stop us from 400 units if we don't set that reasonable growth? I think we're on the same page again, Lloyd and I, with the reasonable growth aspect of it, but not the growth at a pace when we have the community out here. And normally we have one person or two say, I like this project, it's gonna do something good. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's the time, a lot of comments were made about late notice. I know that our staff does a good job sending the notice where it's supposed to be sent, within the time period it was sent. If you didn't have it, at least those of you that didn't have enough notice, you're here. We heard your voices, and it is much appreciated. We really encourage all of you guys to be a lot more involved because it gives us insight on what you guys are dealing with. We live in this town, but we don't live necessarily in your side of town, and having your input is valuable. So that's all I have to say. So thank you.
Okay, Richard, I'll put you on the spot now.
On the spot. I do have one question for the applicant. What would your price point go up if they weren't 3-story? If you eliminated that top story? Because it seems like a lot of people don't want everybody in those 3rd stories looking down into their backyards.
Help me to understand what your question is about regarding price point.
So if you were to eliminate the 3rd story, how much would that rent go up?
How many units would you lose?
How many units would you lose, and what would the rent go up on the other?
Well, I'm thinking you're not gonna lose quite a third because there's single stories here and 2 there, so 1, 2, 3, so you're gonna lose
50 units.
3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah, about that.
7, 8. I mean, you're gonna lose, yeah, somewhere in that number.
Okay. I'm just.
I don't think price points changes by the number of units in the project. What I will say, and you know, everybody's got their own opinion, but if you look at the assessor's map one. Yeah, I just want to bring up that, you know, like I mentioned, from here, 3rd story to here, about a football field. Here, you know, we did, you know, talk about, we'd have to get a minor variance for that, building a 7-foot block wall. We did talk about putting some trees there to assist with that. This is an empty field here with the church. These are quite a ways away. This is an apartment project. There are a couple of houses that are in here, basically, that, and one right here. This one is right basically next to the clubhouse, which shields the pool and stuff. There's a couple of houses over in this area, but most of the houses on County Line Road are up here to the front and are several hundred feet away from where the apartments are. So I don't believe that the difference between a 2nd and 3rd story makes a big difference as far as sightline goes. If that answers that in some way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony?
This is my side of town. For 40 years, I've lived up off County Line Road. I travel this road every day, sometimes multiple times a day. I do come down Avenue H, and I'll generally either turn on 2nd Street or 3rd Street to hit County Line. So, and the same up on Bryant. We have a school up on Bryant, and those 2 times during the day, it's always congested. I do want to say one thing. You know, whenever we have a contentious kind of project, we get a lot of comments that are directed towards this commission that are negative towards the members of it. And the group of guys I set up here with, we're all volunteers that have been asked to do this. We don't get paid for it. We spend usually 2 nights a week or 2 nights a month sitting here listening to projects, trying to make the best decisions that we can. We have a city staff that puts a lot of effort into all of these projects. And whether they're approved or not, the same amount of work goes into these. Developers are trying to, one, make a profit, and that's any developer. If he's not making a profit, he's not developing projects. So there's a lot of things that go into this. But for the most part, as a commission, we get these plans and a package on these projects on Thursday of last week. So you guys have seen this stuff for possibly months and looked at it before we actually have a chance to review it. And part of the reason is for that is we're supposed to be impartial to it, and we try to be impartial to it, and listens to everyone's comments, listen to staff's recommendations, listen to the developer, and then try to make a decision that's, sometimes a compromise for everyone. So it's not quite as cut and dry and easy, and, we didn't bring this project before our commission. It was presented to us. And so it's not, it's not staff trying to push this project. It's not us. It's a working relationship. We see Mr. Heaps a lot bring in projects. And some of them are, the majority of projects come through here. If you're lucky to have 2 people that show up, and generally none. So I appreciate this, that everyone shows up and voices their opinion, because it does make a difference in town if you're involved. And so I appreciate you showing up, but please just keep in mind, we're trying to do the best we can here in a project, hearing your concerns, and also trying to balance that with what we might think is good or not good for the city. And again, I'll go back to, just as a general rule, I try to look at things as what happens down the road if we don't develop what's here. And again, I go back to Chapman Heights, or not Chapman Heights, but North Bench. A few years ago, we could have had 1 acre lots up there. But the previous groups didn't want 1 acre lots because it was too dense. And then it was half acre, and now it's quarter acre they're talking about. So as time goes on, these things get higher and higher density. So maybe it is a fit, maybe it's not a fit, but you being here is, I think, says a lot, and I appreciate you coming, and they're tough projects. I understand that, like I said. And I hope no matter what the decision is, that, the important thing is it's community. So let's try to, work together and get these things done in a direction or developed in a way that works. And so your input and involvement with the city and the development that's coming forward, not only now but in the future, is really important. So please try to stay involved, not just in the projects that affect you personally in your neighborhood, but try to look at things throughout the city and be involved and voice your opinion in them. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, we do know from staff and everything, we do need apartments, we need housing, good quality housing. And this is a good quality project, but is it the right fit, the right area? Who knows? But we have to go off of what's told to us. So we're gonna do the best we can. And with that, commissioners, what do we have?
Anyone wants to make a motion on this?
Well, so you wanna make a motion?
Hey, we hang out enough with each other here. We hear enough negative about each other from each other. So it's a pleasant thing to have the community members here. It truly is. So we appreciate you guys.
And then as a point of order, similar to the last project, for this to move forward with a recommendation for approval, it will require 4 members to vote in affirmative. Alternatively, similar to any other project, if it is not 4 votes, the applicant does have the ability to appeal that decision as well.
I'm going to make a motion that we defer this to the next meeting where we have a full board of commissioners, where we have all 7 present. I think it's important enough that we, we look at it a little closer and have everyone here. So I'll make the motion that we set this one off for another meeting.
Plan Commission can certainly do that. Given that the public hearing has been closed, it would be continuing the item for that, and then we'll have to make sure that the 2 members that were not present have an opportunity to listen to the presentation and comments that were received tonight so that they have the same information that you guys all had. But that can certainly be the motion of the Plan Commission.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call on this?
And to confirm, before Maria does the roll call, the continuance would be for a date certain, which would be August 17th.
Okay.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Chair Algauer,
Yes.
Vice Chair Markarian,
Yes, and bless you, whoever sneezed.
Commissioner Beck,
Yes.
Commissioner Hicks,
Yes.
Commissioner Rexstad.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 votes to defer it.
That was it?
That's it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you again for coming in.
And next meeting?
Next meeting will be the 17th. It will probably be with this crowd and another project. It will probably be a pretty hefty agenda. So we will be working on the staff reports to get that out, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Meeting adjourned.
Motion to adjourn? No? He's running out of here. All right. When you're right, you're right.
Isn't that the truth?